is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated.
Uncle RICO Gardner Minshew named the starting quarterback for the Raiders to open the 2024 season. Did Antonio Pearson's staff make the right decision here? An ex-NFL starter urinated on a passenger during a flight and is now in some big trouble. The Cowboys kicker unofficially ties the NFL record for the longest field goal in Week 2 preseason game. Ryan McCarthy joins us for Hour 2 to discuss some CFL coverage and previews for the following week as well. All that and more on this edition of Total Football Talk. Welcome, one and all. It's that time again. We're back for Total Football Talk. I'm your co-host, Drew Willingham, along with the EP of all EPs, my man, Cole Johnson, behind the Playmaker Silence Witness Protection Program screen. Well, Cole gets reacclimated with the streams. I am here, Drew Willingham, on behalf of Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome, along with my man Cole Johnson to discuss this week's Behind Takes and Total Football Talk action. We just went through Week 2 of the preseason. Then we got the CFL. We got to recap Week 11 with Ryan McCarthy during Hour 2, as well as preview Week 12 that's coming up this upcoming weekend. Thursday through Sunday football action on CFL's biggest stage of itself, the sister platform of the NFL. Some rules are different, some rules are better, some rules are not. We'll get to that during Hour 2. Let's see if Cole is back yet. We can hear him, but we cannot see him. He is floating out here in these streams. I hope that he gets it straight here momentarily. But with that being said, let's see what you guys got to say out here in the comments. Looks like Victor Locke is now here, and because Victor is here, I get to click the button. As he says, yo, what's good in the land of the TFT tribe? Time to get this opening scoring drive right with the big game hunter of Dumpster Pelicans Worldwide, Sensei Drew Willingham. And because of that, I've got to click this button.
You like that? You like that?
I do like that. As we welcome back, hopefully the technical difficulties have eroded with our guy, Cole.
I don't know where you can hear me and I muted the mic. That I want to know. I heard that part. I'm like, I muted the mic. How in the world he heard me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was the technical difficulties are running wild. It was hitting me up a little bit before we even got on the stream. It was hitting you as soon as we clicked the button. So I feel you on that. It is the streams trying to say, welcome back on this Monday afternoon as we have Cole Johnson here and myself. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Your dreams are your ticket. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. I shouldn't flashback like that. Good afternoon, sir. It's glad to be with you talking football yet again. TFT Tribe, glad to see you all again. And yeah, it is great that we're kicking off episode number 51. Ah,
51 is
yes.
in the books. Yes, sir, man. Next week makes a year
1
since
year
we
anniversary.
started this.
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to it. We've had some changes here and there we've had to make due to your schedule, my schedule, but each and every week, the constant still lives on is that we still get to do this thing that we love doing together and talk football. As Vic Allah was in the house, Mickey Delaney says, let's go. CISC is back for the first time in a while and says, hey, Drew, what's up with you? What's up, CISC? We love having you back in the building. Keep it coming out here in the comments. And of course, the master of hilarity, Hook, and the comedic uppercut, the leader of the Shifter Nation, the EP of all EPs, Kel Just.
Yeah, that Shift Nation. But yes, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you, Big Game Hunter.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. I got to do what I can out here in these streams, but I can't do it alone without you when it comes to this show right here. Mick says, come on, Cole. It's about time, Cole, he says. And come on, Eileen, give her a facial.
Mickey, calm it down, son. Calm it down. But I'm glad to see you, Mick.
Play-by-play with JJ's in the house says, Cow!
JJ, what's up, man? It's good to see you.
Appreciate you tuning in, JJ, and being here to support us and the TFT tribe out here in this afternoon. We got many things to discuss today, Cole. We're going to, speaking of shifting, we got some things to shift around today. And we've got Ryan McCarthy joining us for hour 2. And because of that, we're going to do things in a little bit of a different order today and for the near future until we come up with a good plan for how we're going to balance things out going forward. But before we do that, JJ says, good to see you too, my brothers, and we appreciate you being here, as always, to support us out here in these streams. With that being said, instead of going with the open and drive first, we're going to take it to the Gridiron Scoop. We got to talk about Uncle Rico and more, and we'll see what we got to talk about when it comes to that edition of the Gridiron Scoop. And here at the Gridiron Scoop, Cole, we've got Uncle Rico Gardner Minshew named the starting quarterback for the Raiders to open the 2024 season. Did Antonio Pearson's staff make the right decision here? And can he lead this young offense to success this season?
Yes, from the standpoint of, I think it was contingent on how advanced Aiden O'Donnell was in his development. Obviously, I don't think they trusted the young youngster enough. Even though he got the wins at the end of the season, the offense was extremely tailored and scaled down to basically a run first, run second, and maybe pass every other third down. But it looks like I don't think he's advanced enough. And so they have Mr. Minshew in place. So I think they made the right decision. The second part of your question, that is where I have the caveat. Success in what terms? A success in having a winning record? I think he could do that. Success in winning the AFC West? Let me see if I can. I'm having a hard time getting the answer out of my mouth. I think someone needs to help me. Bishop.
Hell to the no, no. Hell no, to the no.
No, because if they think that Gardner Minshew is going to lead the Las Vegas Raiders to the AFC West championship, unfortunately, they are going to take one big too many to do it.
So you have no faith in Uncle Rico? None, absolute.
I have some faith in him. I have little faith in that offense. The running game's coming around. They got Devontae Adams, but come on now. You need to have a dynamic quarterback to get in the ball. And yes, Gardner Minshew is a serviceable one. But would you consider him a top 10? I'm sorry. Bishop, come back on the screen. Would you consider Gardner Minshew a top 10 quarterback in the NFL?
Hell to the no, no. Hell no, to the no.
And I'm not going to argue with the Bishop.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to argue with the Bishop, but I think for the first time in, my time out here in these streams, I'm going to argue with the Bishop because you got to look at his numbers. Like you said, he's a serviceable quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Can't argue that. He's definitely got better touchdown statistics than interception statistics. And he's, pretty good at protecting the ball. Besides the whole interceptions, you could also compare and contrast fumbles, and he does a pretty good job overall of taking care of the football. Mm-hmm. If you have decent play, and and not just him, but your offense overall, your offensive line, which you retooled and made some moves,
and it's
got a
decent.
decent,
Mm-hmm.
Your running back core is improved a little bit, but it's still a little inconsistent.
Inconsistent and young, right?
Yes, like you said, the key words: young, inconsistent, and young. Like you said, Devontae Adams is a star, but we don't know how long he's going to be there for one. Right. And, and how that dynamic is going to play out this year with Las Vegas. There's big question marks there.
Right.
The one thing I am excited about, because we all know how I like to drop the dime mother father out here in these streams. One person that I'm excited to watch and continue to grow out there as the tight end for this team is Cole Fotheringham. Okay. Because you look at how that name is, you throw a mother in front of the fathering, and you've got a ham out there. When you mix all that together, you got something cooking. And you got something cooking when you got somebody who plays the tight end position. Somebody, again, who we talked about, who is young. But when you think about all that, Cole Fotheringham is the future tight end. The Travis Kelce of the Raiders. And yes, I went far enough to say he will be the Travis Kelce of the Raiders one day if they give him a chance. And it starts with Uncle Rico. And if Uncle Rico and Cole Fotheringham can connect 1-via-1 for some TDs like Gronk and Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II used to call tidies, if they can connect for tidies out here, we're going to see greatness, and we're going to see Uncle Rico be a top 11 quarterback.
Now, that is absurd.
Poor Brock Bowers. You're just going to overlook him because of this wonderful name of one of my namesakes going to be a tight end possibility for the Raiders. Now, I said they might actually have a chance of winning record. I mean, Minshew led the Colts to a winning record last year. Led them to a game where they were going to fight for at least a playoff spot. And if they would have won that game, more than likely they would have won the AFC South. So he played a great 15 of the 17 games that he had to play. He, of course, didn't play the first game, and he had to come in the middle of the second game in relief of Anthony Richardson. And he didn't really show up all that much in week 18 against the Texans. I mean, that's just how I'm looking at it. I'm like, if I were to say he sucks, then that would mean that I should not even analyze football. The dude knows how to play the position. There's no question about that. I just am not enamored with the talent around him. Not the line. The line's gotten better, but you mentioned it. Running backs, they're young and they're inconsistent. The receiving core is inconsistent other than Devontae Adams. And that's where I am here. Because the defense, to me, with the Raiders, is going to have to take up too much of the slack for them to actually advance far. I mean, Max Crosby is going to have to probably pull TJ Watt numbers with sacks this year.
Yeah, I
Not
gotta
saying he
say,
can't do it, but he's going to pull that type of. He's going to do that type of. He's going to pull that type of number for the Raiders to be successful in that regard. To me,
I mean, it's possible. It's
yeah.
possible that happens because
Mhm.
I mean, Max Crosby is a beast, and
Yes.
they're going to need that type of production out of him if they're
Mhm.
going to do any of the things that I just kind of threw out there as a wild take. As far
Mhm.
as the success, and
Yeah.
especially if we have to consider Uncle Rico's a top 11 quarterback because we're not putting him in the top 10, but I'll put him in the top 11 for right now. If everything else comes into fruition, if you get the type of production out of you also still have Darren Waller. Okay. You got him. You've got Cole Fotheringham and Brock Bowers. But yes, my take was based on the fact that I do like that name right there when
I
it
know.
comes to Cole Fotheringham. And I might have
Oh my
misspoke a
gosh.
little bit when
I
it
know.
comes to, the team that I said that he was with when it comes to one Darren Waller,
Aaron
because
Waller
he has bounced around and
with
he
the
last
Giants.
played with the Giants. He did come from the Raiders, after
Yeah.
starting with the Ravens. I got a little bit excited, especially when you think of the last name Fotheringham. And yes, I have gone a 5-minute take about a sweet last name because just in case he gets cut, I want to make sure I get it all out and lay it all out there like Rocky did in the movie Rocky Balboa when he fought and laid it all out there.
I just knew it. It's like, okay, this wild take of his, it must be a funky name, and I'll be doggone it was.
Mother
I
Fotheringham.
should have known. I should have known. I should have known from jump. Oh Lord.
So please, when it comes to this guy and his cool name, Raiders, please do not do this to him.
Who's giving them the business?
Oh, well played, sir. Well played.
Keep him around. Keep him around. Ladies and gentlemen, that does it for our first topic here on the Gridiron Scoop. Let's go ahead and take it into the next half of this segment. So now we have an ex-NFL starter, goes Dare Shales. I guess I said that right. You'll have to Google it up. Just Google the guy who accidentally, well, whether it is allegedly or not, the fact that he urinated on a passenger during a flight. All you got to do is urinated on passenger NFL, and I'm sure his name will pop up. With all that being said, ex-NFL starter goes Dare Shales, arrested after allegedly urinating on passenger during flight. What in the all types of blue hell was he thinking? And how bad does this look on the NFL when considering CTE as a factor?
Well, obviously, he was thinking like Antonio Brown doing that type of junk. I mean, come on. Urinating on a passenger. Jeez. I mean, there's things that you want to excoriate an athlete for, and then there's things like this where it's like, why should society even entertain you? Period. And you don't want to say stuff like that, but good God, that's just ridiculous. And as for the CTE question, which that's a really good one, I may add, the NFL every single year, definitely ever since this has become a thing, which you probably say it would be roughly 20 years ago, and it's gathering steam on more steam each and every passing year, probably since the mid 2000 odds. Uh, this is a thing, and it's almost to the point where now you have parents of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10-year-olds, boys, obviously, some girls, but mostly boys. When you introduce football to them, you actually have some parents who would say, and even Mr. LeBron James actually said the same thing in saying, let me see if I can remember it. I know I got cobwebs in his brain. Oh yeah, quote, "I'm not going to let my sons play football." Close quote. So now you have that groundswell getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you have incidents like these and you see dummies like Antonio Brown, people could say, yeah, after that Vontaze Burfict hit that he took in January 2016, it hasn't been the same. No, the dude was cuckoo even before then. It just now accelerated after that hit. it is a concern the NFL needs to get behind. And I say NFL, not necessarily football at large, but NFL in general, because they have the deepest of pockets in all of football. And if they can get ahead of this and they can actually find a way to say, well, we're doing our best with CTE damage, the better off they'll be. Unfortunately, at the moment, most likely you can only see the damage of CTE when someone passes away. So this does not look good in terms of CTE with the NFL, because you're going to have parents who are going to say, see, this guy used to play in the NFL. Look how damaged in the brain he is. And we'll point that to, again, a 5, a 6, a 7, 8, a 9, or a 10-year-old boy and say, that's why you're not playing football.
Yeah. I mean, because, even if he was intoxicated, I mean, you're still, you'd have to be, I can't even imagine like the mindset you'd have to be in. And I don't even think that with the right mind, even if the right mind was intoxicated, would do something like that. Because generally, when you are intoxicated, right, it's like you're self-amplified times 10 or whatever. Okay. And you might you might lose certain parts of your motor skills, but you know, I've never met anybody, or even myself at times in the past when I've, had some cold ones, even at the deepest of points when you've had a little bit too much, never had the inclination to urinate on somebody. Okay. Let's just be 100% real. All right. You have to be completely screwed up in the head. Like you have got a lot of trauma going on. Like somebody did that to you when you were a kid. All right. Just to be 100% real. Or what I'm thinking when I wrote the question, and just like you had stated, I appreciate the props for that. When I wrote the question, I'm thinking to myself, there had to have been a lot of impact to his head for him to even completely remotely think about doing that. On top of probably being intoxicated, because I still don't see anybody in their right sober mind who hasn't dealt with a lot of trauma or impact to their brain making some type of decision like that, especially with all that amount of all the people around you on a flight. It's not like it was a personal flight where there was like 10 people on there. This was a regular like airline he was on, traveling around on vacation, and apparently, having a little bit too much of a good time on vacation to let go of the trauma, and the trauma impacted the good time. And that's what I see as a result where this comes into play.
Well stated. I mean, that's really what it is, man. I mean, this is not normal behavior. It just is not. And I'm glad you actually did pose this as a question. This is abnormal behavior. And for anybody who is new to loving and following football, if you think this is behavior that normal football players undergo, no. I could tell you because I've been on teams. Drew probably could tell you the same because he's been on teams too. No. Coaches and other players will stress that you got to walk the straight and narrow, and if you don't, you have to answer to a community, not just the team and not just the coaches. You got to answer to a community, and the community football players, if you were to act out like this, they will rake you over the coals. Some might even physically rake you over said coals, but you just can't do things like that. You have to be responsible. And I think if there's a message that has to be sent to the individual football player, it is that you definitely have to make sure that you take care of your mentals. It is absolutely essential. And if you don't, you're going to have more incidents like these, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse.
Hopefully this all pans out and he can get some help. He's going to have to face some type of consequences for this. I mean, he's already getting ridiculed all over the internet. So that's step one. But, you're going to have to, there's going to be some fees, for exposing yourself in public. You might have to do some time potentially, And something like this, because you've exposed yourself, you technically could have to register as a sex offender, because when you think about all that, I mean, this is a lot to process. I mean, it was a lot to process when I was reading this stuff, 5, 6 o'clock this morning, putting, things together. And I'm like, yeah, we got to talk about this, because this is pretty serious. When we talk about like Antonio Brown and what he did, how he exited the field and all that, we are comparing all that to CTE. This, you have to have in the same conversation as that.
Yeah. And also, it's funny we talk about that. Patrick Willis, who retired early, and he now is, and rightfully so, he now is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He got inducted earlier this month. He retired early because he did not want to suffer that type of brain damage, because he had a teammate. The teammate's name escapes me. If I hear the name, I'll know it. But he had a teammate who quit, and I think he was like 25 when he decided to say, no, I'm hanging it up. And it was due to CTE issues and CTE concerns. And you're starting to have players like him, like Calvin Johnson, like others who are actually retiring, and they're 30, not 35 or 40, but 30. And now, where those players used to be shamed, it's like, well, man, you can keep going, like Barry Sanders was when he retired early. They're not getting that type of shame. And this is why.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head, where people are questioning those moves in that moment. It's times like these where they look back in the mirror, like they'll stand in front of the mirror and thank themselves for being responsible enough to get out early enough. You still made plenty of enough money. You're going to be set for the rest of your life if you invested it well and had the right people in your corner. So if you're 30, you got the money. And even back when Barry Sanders played, he made considerably less than what, guys made 20 years after him. And he still invested well enough to where he could retire at the age that he did. And other people like Calvin Johnson and stuff that you had mentioned as well, both came from a terrible Lions franchise, and I know both of them would love to play for the Lions of today. But when you think about all that, they still have their faculties in place. Calvin Johnson, technically, if you look at it with the age, I mean, in the way he kept himself in shape, he probably could have been playing still now today.
Now
it'd be like the very tail end of his career, and he'd be enjoying the fruits to the very end. But I think he would still be in good shape. But the big question would be is, where would his headspace be in that moment? And he knows the answer to that today, because he is in the best, probably, mental shape of his life at that point. With that being said, before we go to the next segment, David 3000 in the house says, hey, everyone.
Dave, what's up, man? It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well there, David 3000. Appreciate you tuning in. Colin Kaepernick would be a great quarterback possibly for the Raiders.
He would be a great quarterback, but Jim Harbaugh is looking for him to be on his staff. So we shall see.
Those reports did come out. Until it's official, I didn't want to bring it up quite yet. If you guys are watching on Sartoba Media or on Comey Media, please subscribe now and never miss out on new content. If you are new to the channel, click that like button, click that share button, and as well, like I previously said, subscribe to the channels to stay tuned with the latest that we have coming out for you. Sadly, Darren Waller was traded to the Giants 13 days after his marriage to one of the Vegas Aces, which doomed his marriage.
This dummy. How the heck he that dummy cheated on Kelsey Plum. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, your eye must wander, because that girl kind of fine. I'm like, how the heck you gonna cheat on her? I'm like, dang, fool. Just messed his stuff up. And now he's divorced, and and the Giants really don't want him. So
I don't even think the Giants want themselves. They don't play like they do. Like this. It's pretty bad.
You have a really good point.
Likewise, but man, Sick Diggy says, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Good evening, sir. Glad that you are aboard, as always.
As always, he comes back with the fire and says, hey, Mickey Delaney, how are the Build-A-Bears? You go back and forth with the Build-A-Bear comments in these streams on Sartoba back and forth throughout the week. I appreciate the entertainment. Rocky versus Mason Dixon. Yes, sir. They're in Rocky 6, the Rocky Balboa movie. But it was a better way to end the fighting story of Rocky Balboa than Rocky 5, because that movie was absolutely trash.
I think they knew that, considering they went with a loosely connected Rocky series with Creed. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and it was sad to see him written out of the last one, or at least not written into it. But hey, you got to move on at some point. And that story, it definitely they squeezed every bit of juice out of that lemon on that one. So,
oh yeah, no question.
Sick Dicky says the matter of CTE is becoming more of a cop out for bad behavior at times.
I could see that. But then unfortunately you have, like I said, you have examples of Antonio Brown, who, well, you could say that's a cop out, but the dude just keeps making the same type of stupid mistakes, whether he's playing or whether he's not, or whether he's even owning a football team. He's making those same mistakes of, the heck is wrong with you? And he's also, and this is the kicker here, also can be a danger to the family that he has.
Very much so. That's a very great point there. And secondly, what would provoke somebody to pee on another person on a flight?
Yeah, like I said, you got to be sick. I mean, seriously. And no, I'm not talking Diggy. I mean, you have to be mentally messed up in the head to want to do something like that consciously to somebody. And if you have any type of consciousness, that's something you would not want to do. And I take that back. Let me unless you're Robert Kelly and it's a 15-year-old, then that's a different story. Other than that, I can't see a human being wanting to urinate on another and do so consciously.
That was tough. Now, especially when CISC says PP boys said, let's make it a spritzer.
Jeez.
Adding something to their beverage they already had in their hand.
Oh,
Drew Willingham, you'd be surprised at things that some people would do under the influence. Very well stated.
true.
While living here in Las Vegas, I have seen professional athletes eating turds while drunk here in Las Vegas.
That's not as far-fetched as you think. It's messed up, and I've seen it, and not in Las Vegas, but that is something that I would still question somebody's sanity in doing that, but I've actually seen that a couple times. Nasty as heck, but I've actually seen it.
I'm glad that I've been sheltered from that.
Yeah, I'm glad you have been sheltered too.
There's many other things out there we can compare and contrast as far as, sheltering from others that you've seen that I haven't, and vice versa. But I'm so glad that is one of those things. As far as this incident goes, one should deep dive in what led to it. What led up to it? Was there an exchange of words? Was there any provocation? And what about the other person's conduct in the incident in question? None of that was reported in the. I read like 4 different articles on it just to see, like, basically where you're coming with those questions. Sick. I didn't see anything that was written. Now, of course, when it comes to stories like these, they're gonna focus more on the person who portrayed the act, the person who messed up.
Right.
They probably didn't interview the other person, that they got urinated on, for one, and two. A lot of this is coming off of like police report based stuff. So it's not like they went up to you and say, hey, what were you thinking when you urinated on the passenger on the flight? And hey, how did it feel to get urinated on during this flight? No, none of that happened. So until more of this story comes out, since this is fairly fresh, we're going to have to wait for more facts to come out. We're only telling you what we know in the moment. Did he pee on a woman or a man? Again, that's still, from what I read, wasn't completely verified. If you can verify it for us, let us know.
Doesn't matter.
I think that as much as CTE is a serious matter, there are those who will use it as a cop out for certain incidents or bad behavior, as he previously said as well. And like Cole just said, it doesn't matter whether it was a man or a woman. You still made a mistake. Like, you should get punished the same no matter who it was, whether it was high class, middle class, or even if they still consider lower class individuals or male, female, whatever the case may be. Doesn't matter. You still messed up. So Lester Hayes should have been in the Hall of Fame before Patrick Willis, says CISC. Well, we'll come back to that here in a little bit. We'll save that.
I have thoughts on that. I have thoughts on that one too. Yeah.
We'll definitely come back with that. But you guys definitely brought some great things here in the chat. We got to get to our first commercial break. When we come back, we got some more things to talk about in the featured attractions before Ryan McCarthy joins us quarter past the first I'd say quarter past the second hour. So other than that, we'll see you guys here after this first commercial break. Actually, I skipped ahead, Cole, because we had to do one more thing.
Okay.
That is the grand champ.
Total football talk.
Where my dogs at? My apologies for dropping the ball, going to commercial a little too soon.
It's all right. It's all right.
But we got to talk about who our grand champ of the week is, whether it's in CFL or NFL throughout the preseason, what we saw based on some play. Who is your grand champ of the week there, Cole?
You know, I'm sort of torn. In fact, all right. I was going to give it to Patrick Mahomes because he showing that he's already midseason form ready. In the preseason game Saturday against the Lions, he threw a behind the back pass to Travis Kelce. And that was cool. It was sort of Brett Favre-esque. But I actually am going to give it to Caleb Williams. And the reason being, and the reason why, is it's good to see the youngster actually make positive plays. Yes, I know it is still the middle of August. Yes, I know the regular season doesn't begin in another 3 weeks. Yes, I know that these are vanilla defenses he's going up against. I get that. I get all of that. But having him step on the field for the first time to actually start any type of game and to look halfway passable and halfway decent. Yeah, I think it's a sign of things to come that actually might be a turn for the better for the Bears, which I can't even believe I'm actually saying those words and it's coming out of my mouth. But I think the reason why I have a little bit more optimism about Caleb Williams is because when we saw the same thing happen with Justin Fields in the same preseason game, it was actually week 2 in the preseason. He got some time in. He took a snap, and the next thing you know, a defensive lineman for the Bills drilled him to the turf. And I still have something out for that referee because you flagged that young man incorrectly. That was a beautiful hit. That was a sack. That should not have been a penalty because you should penalize the offensive line and the running back for just letting a defensive end just without touching him have a free shot at your quarterback. But that was the indoctrination to Justin Fields being in the NFL. It's opposite for Caleb Williams. So it might be a thing, a harbinger of things to come. Am I saying that he's going to be MVP or Rookie of the Year? He might be Rookie of the Year. But am I saying that he's going to be MVP? Am I saying the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl this year? No. But you got to take the victories when you can get them. I'm going to slide one to Mr. Caleb Williams, the #1 overall draft pick of this year's draft.
Well played. You know, I'm going to go with a team for my choice this week, and I'm going to go to the CFL. And the reason why I'm going to the CFL is I have to look at a team that I threw a bunch of shade on for 7 consecutive weeks. And for the past 3 weeks, they've won. Okay? They've won 3 consecutive games. We're talking about the Edmonton Elkamos. Okay? They are now 3-7 after starting the year out 0-7. This is why they are my pick for the dog of the week, because they just won their past game 47-22. Now, I know they were playing the Hamilton Tiger Kitties, a team that has been absolutely terrible this year. But when you think about the fact that they won the week prior against the BC Lions, who we had on a pedestal for a bit, but then ever since the downfall of Vernon Adams Jr. with his injury, and then the week before that, they played the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who had been falling off the face of the earth as well. And we'll talk about that more in hour 2. You know, the Elkamos are on a 3-game winning streak. And I got to look at this as the fact that they're absolutely balling out here on this gridiron. So when it comes to the CFL, when it comes to the Edmonton Elkamos, when it comes to the play by McLeod, Bethel, Thompson, 234 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, along with Justin Rankin's 17 carries for 108 yards and 3 touchdowns in this past game. You are going to get the dub each and every time when you have production like that, and they deserve to be on the pedestal this week for the dog of the week.
You get no argument out of me, because considering they're coming in this month, they were absolute. The words seem to escape me so much. They were they were there. And now they're world beaters. Now they actually can position themselves as spoilers, and if they keep winning like this, they could actually position themselves for a playoff spot. I mean, it's great. I'm happy with that turnaround, and I can't argue that pick if I tried.
I appreciate that there, sir. Now we will appropriately go to our first commercial break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by Ryan McCarthy here shortly after that. We'll see you guys here after this first commercial break.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated. Creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the evening.
This Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead, hit him up on the Cash App, and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Central on the Sartoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where my soldiers? Left side.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. We are back for episode 51. Myself, Drew Willingham, and Kyle Johnson to talk about the Cowboys kicker unofficially ties the NFL record for longest field goal. We are back. Welcome back. We've got some comments in the chat, but we will see you guys in your comments here shortly. With that being said, let's go ahead and get this unit started off with the featured attraction. Here with the featured attractions, as mentioned in the title of this show today, Cowboys kicker unofficially ties NFL record for longest field goal in Week 2 preseason game. Do you believe he can achieve this feat officially during the 2024 regular season, Cole?
No, I don't think that this should count for a regular season record. I mean,
well, not count,
right,
but do you think he'll actually achieve it during
That's
the regular
great.
season?
That's wonderful. I'm happy for him. Right. Now, if he achieves it, then do I think he can? Probably. Am I rooting for him to do it? Let me see. Let's see. It's the Cowboys. Am I really rooting for that?
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
Do I want to actually see it happen? Nah. In fact, I think the Cowboys actually might go back to missing field goals. But I mean, any kicker can. But I mean, 66 yards is not that's nothing to sneeze at, though. It really is not.
I agree with your sentiments to the point to where I think that midway through the season, they're going to be cutting him and pull up MJ for a little bit of advice.
Stop it. Get some help.
They're going to stop it with the mediocre play and get some real help out there on the field, because it's pretty easy when time's expiring in a preseason game, when nobody's going to go hard at you and just give you the clear open lane to kick. You have no wind. It's a nice, sunny, regular weather day in the area. It's not like it's 31 degrees with the wind blowing with a little bit of an overcast. Okay. So when you put all that in perspective, I'm pretty sure that my man Cole is right. And if it does actually happen, it will be a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
That's how we feel about that right there when it comes to him, doing that during the regular season.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
So now we move on from the kicker. We go to Team USA's flag football quarterback calls it disrespectful to assume NFL players will take the Olympic team spots in 2028. Do you believe this statement is a valid one, or did his team's play in Paris display that they should welcome NFL talent?
NFL talent, come on down. You're the best football players in the world. Welcome to flag football Olympic style. Look, I get that would be tricky, considering that training camp would be right in the midst of when the Olympics start. In fact, I think the Olympics in Los Angeles, when it goes to 2028, I think it starts July the 14th. And normally you would have to allot for that to be maybe 16 days. So so July 14th to say July 30th. Well, you already know July 30th, teams would have already played at least a week of training camp stuff. And the hype for the Hall of Fame game. Oh, gosh. Oh, I'm sorry. And so every time I think about the game, I get sleepy. Oh Lord, the mic is on. I'm sorry. But teams are preparing for that, and then teams are preparing for the week one of the preseason the week after. So it will be tricky. But do I think it's a bad thing? No. Do I think it's an insult? No. No. I mean, you're talking about the best football players in the world. I can't think of any other better ones to represent any team, US, Canada, or any other, in playing American football in any sport, any style, flag or tackle. Yeah, I don't find it to be an insult.
You know, I like your point that you brought up with, it's right around training camp. It kind of does interfere with it. Why can't retired NFL players play flag football? I mean,
I like that idea.
Why can't if LeBron can play at almost age 40, why can't Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II play at 51 when they play in 2028? But why can't he play? If he's still staying in shape, as there was a recent report, again, because we went through this last offseason, about him staying in shape to be able to still show up the young guys. He doesn't have to take any hits if he's playing flag football. So if he can still sling the rock and still read plays and defenses and do everything that he would do on an NFL field without having to take any physical shots, who's to say, unless there's an age limit, or if you can't be in the NFL and you can't be retired, if there's underlining rules in there, which I haven't found in my research. This is why I'm bringing this up. Why can't NFL retired players play? And if there's an age limit, well, obviously there wasn't in basketball because LeBron was still playing at 39 for the Olympics. Why can't Tom Brady play in the 2020 Olympics?
No, I don't see a problem with that. I really don't. I think actually that might be, and you might be onto something. I think that's what they might do. They actually might tap the retirees, recent retirees, and those who have kept in good shape. Because Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. Yeah, he would. I mean, he would be in pretty good shape. Because he actually could play tackle football now if he really wanted to. But yeah, I think that'd be great. And then of course you can also, if you really want to make it funky, you can have NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame inductees represent that team. I'd be all for it. I would love it. And I think that is, you might be onto something, Drew. I think that's where they're going to head. I think that's what they're going to do.
I guess we'll see how that pans out, but I like that. I think that could be something that would work out great because you don't have any, you don't have any conflicts with training camp. They don't have to rush to be anywhere. They're mother fathering retired. Okay. So they just have all the time in the world to be able to do that. And those who have retired from the game professionally, but have done a great job in keeping themselves in shape. Wouldn't it be awesome to see Shannon Sharp out there in his late 50s, catching a pass at tight end and winning a gold medal? Something that when he put the rock down 20 years ago, just about when he retired for good from the NFL, he wouldn't have thought he'd been able to do again. And he's still in great shape. Maybe not as great shape as Tom Brady. I'd say out of everybody that's retired and, of course, close to 50 or in their 50s, Tom Brady, just outside of 50, is in the best shape to be considered for it. And there's a lot of question marks with some other players. But the good thing is you still have about 2.5 to 3 years to get yourself in shape completely before they have to start evaluating you and taking you serious enough to consider you for a roster spot. So with all that being said, we'll have to see how that pans out, but I kind of like the whole going after the NFL retired players, and I'm glad that you're on board with that as well.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Now our last topic here in the featured attractions before the Snowflake of the Week. Looking ahead to the 2024 NFL season and thinking about the offseason acquisitions around the league, who are your top 3 acquisitions that will make an impact on their new team this season. We recently talked about the rookies. Okay, you can include some rookies in this if you want, or exclude them since we talked about the rookies. But I'm talking about moves. You could talk about free agency. You could talk about trade. You can talk about rookies with the draft. You can also talk about front office or coaching moves. This is your top 3 choices within all 32 franchises around the league. What are your top 3 picks for this statement right here?
Good question. Top 3 acquisitions. I'm on the fence in calling the Stephon Gilmore acquisition, I think, by the Vikings one. I'm on the fence about it. I mean, because I still think he has still something left in the tank. But I think, unfortunately, the Vikings are going to be tanking this season because it seems like people are just falling right and left with injuries. If it's not Jordan Addison, it's JJ McCarthy. But I'm almost wanting to say Stephon Gilmore because I'm so glad that he got picked up. That's a really good one. That's a really good question. Let's see. I think one of them, and I'm not being a homer when I say this, I think the Stephon Diggs get for the Texans, I think that was really good. Not necessarily for his skill set, not necessarily for the production that he can put on the field. I sort of like it for the young wide receiving room that's there, because that wide receiver room of the Titans is extremely talented, just with Nico Collins and Tank Dell alone. And I think they'll get a good front row seat as to how to be a professional wide receiver. And yeah, I'll put it this way, how not to be one. And so I think his presence on the Texans, I think, will be beneficial for the wide receiver room, more so with the X's and O's away from the field than the fact that he could probably pull 100 receptions and get you 1,500 yards. I will go Ezekiel Elliott. And the reason being is because the Cowboys are the gift that keeps on giving. In an offseason where they basically allowed Tony Pollard to walk for nothing, didn't get anything in return, it's like, we really don't value all that much. And Titans grabbed him off free agency. And the Cowboys didn't draft one, didn't go after free agency for one, then just waited and waited and waited. And then Gerald decided to just put pen to paper, Ezekiel Elliott to come back again. And it would be great if Ezekiel Elliott was in the 2016 form where he could be the 3-down back and he can catch out the backfield and all that. However, he came off a year with the Patriots where he was number 2 to Ramondre Stevenson. Let that sink in your brain. But yes, Ezekiel Elliott, top offseason acquisition, because the Cowboys just simply are the gift that keeps on giving.
You know, the only thing that I want to say, you had some great picks there. But when you talk about your homer pick with the Texans and Stephon Diggs, I agree with that. But I also want to compliment that with Danielle Hunter, with you adding more for your pass rush.
On the field, I like that move better. Yes.
Off the field, yes, questionable. But he finished the 2023 season with double-digit sacks for the 5th time in 7 years. I just want to throw that out there, including years where he missed time.
Yeah.
So that move right there, if the off the field stuff balances out, you made a great pick there too, with not only offense and defense. I just wanted to say that to compliment what you were talking about with Stephon Diggs. That was one.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I appreciate that. My moves are a little different.
I'm sure they are.
I want to start with the Buffalo Bills. And one that I didn't think that was going to go down. But the reason why I say this is because restructuring Von Miller's contract was a big deal for their salary cap, not only for this season, but going forward, because it was a tough offseason for the Bills as they turned the page and moved on from several core veterans who made up their winning window over the past few years. But they are still a team that intends to compete for the division, and they can now field a better roster due to restructuring Von Miller's contract. I mean, Miller finished with a career low in PFF grades across the board in 2023, and while he could have held firm on the big contract number he was owed in 2024, Buffalo was able to restructure his deal to save about $9 million in cap space for signings and re-signings that remain to keep them remaining as competitive as possible. So even though they're probably going to regress a little bit in comparison to what they have done over the past few years, I still think the move for them as an organization was good. I mean, anytime that you can save $9 million in the cap when you have somebody who's played as long as Von Miller, who usually they just want to take the money and run because they know their days are numbered, and he was supposed to retire last year before he got hurt. So when you put all that in perspective, I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, yeah, I think that was a pretty good move. So the other move I want to say, and this one was the obvious choice, was the Kansas City Chiefs re-signing Chris Jones. Okay, so when you have that, I mean, this was the obvious choice. The Chiefs are going for a three-peat. They can't do so without Chris Jones or Patrick Mahomes, but for the defensive side, the anchor has and will continue to be for quite some time Chris Jones, who is now the highest paid defensive tackle in the league with over $100 million guaranteed on his deal. Few teams have the luxury of going all in for a title, let alone their third in a row. So that's my second pick right there. And the third one was a toss-up between the Chargers and the Dolphins, because the Dolphins extending Jalen Waddle was big. All right, so that was big. But I think the bigger move between the two AFC teams was the Chargers bringing in Jim Harbaugh. Okay, maybe not for this year. They're going to have to figure out what they're working with, if they're cooking with grits or not, make some changes and get ready for 2025. But, this was a slam dunk move, of the offseason for the Chargers. And honestly, one of the best moves any team made. Harbaugh has won everywhere he's been. He excelled at Stanford with the 49ers and then at Michigan by winning the national title, the national championship in this past season. He knows football. He knows football players. And there are few I'd rather have as a head coach for any NFL team when you look at that right there. So those are my three picks and Cole's picks. We're going to go to the Snowflake of the Week, and then we have our guest for hour 2. Let's go ahead and take this into the Snowflake of the Week. And here for the Snowflake of the Week, it is Cole's turn to bring the snowflake to light. Let's see what he's got on his mind.
All right. I was talking about the Cowboys. I might as well go there. Gerald. What are you thinking? You have a guy in CeeDee Lamb who no wide receiver has caught more receptions and for more yards than him. And you're seeing all of these wide receivers getting contract extensions, Justin Jefferson being one of them. And he's putting up numbers commensurate to him. Put up numbers commensurate to Devontae Adams. Numbers commensurate to even a Jamar Chase when he's healthy. And you're hemming and hawing about signing him. And I think you're probably juggling too many balls in the air, being that you want to be co-GM and you just simply relinquish the reins and let your boy Steven take care of that, because you're soft shoeing if you want to sign Dak Prescott to his last big contract. You're now debating if you want to re-sign CeeDee Lamb. Meanwhile, CeeDee Lamb is holding out, and now you have an offense where the starting running back is probably going to be Ezekiel Elliott, who he has a lot of tread on them tires. And there isn't any person that can actually help out. What, Gallup's going to be your number one receiver? I mean, come on now. You got to think this better. Gerald, Come on. But I get it. You're high on the hog. You know, you're on the phone. You're saying, well, I'm glad that my team is now worth $10 billion. I mean, you know, I'm the best businessman in the sports industry's history. I know what to do with deals, but I don't know what to do with ball players. That's how you are, sir. About to be, 82 in October? And you said you want a Super Bowl. You don't want a Super Bowl bad enough. Sign that player. Otherwise, your team is going to go further down the drain yet again.
Solid take, my man. Especially when we have an opportunity to throw a little bit of shade on this man right here.
Ain't nobody calling me, texting me. Delete!
Had to compliment your great take with Tam. And while I had the opportunity to, because it's been a while since we talked about Tam. But my snowflake of the week, I'm going to make Ryan McCarthy proud for having a dog of the week and a snowflake of the week, both part of the CFL. Now, when we look at the CFL, we're going to talk about them here shortly after my take here in our last commercial break. But when we look at the snowflake of the week, I got to look at a running attack that, had they done a little bit better, they would have won the game because they only lost by 2 mother-fathering points. And this team right here was a team that's had their ups and downs, that fell to 4-6 after the results of this past weekend's game. And I'm talking about the Calgary Stampeders running backs, a team that only mustered 61 rushing yards on, 62 rushing yards on 21 attempts. Now you're probably saying to yourself, Drew, 62 rushing yards isn't horrible. When you think about the fact it took them 21 attempts and it was through 4 different running backs, and they all had terrible statistics on the day, terrible averages, each and every one. The biggest thing that Cole and I have talked about throughout the 51 straight weeks of this show has been establishing the run, because establishing the run sets the tone for the game. It allows the opportunities for play action pass and shotgun. It even, surprisingly enough, if you think about it, you dig deep enough into it, it even helps your defense, because the more you run the ball, the more time that comes off the clock, the more rest your defense gets. If your defense gets rest, enough appropriate rest, they're going to go out there and be able to do their job appropriately. So, establish the run, makes everything else go around on offense, and it even helps out your defense. And this is why the Calgary Stampeders have been up and down like a roller coaster this year, because they have had issues establishing their run in all 6 of the games that they have lost. When you look at the 4 games they have won, they've actually done a better job and improved from the previous week, where they were terrible at establishing the run, to where they were getting the big, fat, juicy Looking forward to Ryan's take on that and much more when we come back from our last commercial break. Cole and I will see you here and introduce our guest of the week once we come on back now, y'all.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2. Ready? Hey.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy and now begins a future one of matrimony, or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan. Join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason Whitlock.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. We are back for episode 51. We are live right now. And Cole, introduce our guest of the week.
Oh, well, wow. It's a wonderful gentleman that we love. He's a brother of ours, and he definitely knows his way around the Canadian Football League. I think it's time to probably introduce him in this way. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Inside the CFL, and our CFL Insider is here. Welcome, Ryan McCarthy, No Just Acquired. How you doing, sir?
I love the heavy metal intro. I love it. It fits my style.
That's what I thought.
We wanted to bring you in the right way, and I knew Cole was cooking up something, so I was like, Cole, click the How you doing there, sir?
Let me get some light in here. I can see my face better now. No, I'm doing great. You know, it's this CFL season, man. I mean, we talked about it all the way in week 2, Drew. But the subsequent 10 weeks after has just been chef's kiss.
Yes. Yes. It has gone in different directions than what you and I and Cole, of us individually, have talked about. And now we finally have the opportunity for all three of us to talk about it together. I'm excited about that. I know you guys are as well. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to be here. We look forward to it. And, you know, without any further ado, let's go ahead and take it to the opening drive of hour 2 and discuss some CFL action.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On 2, on 2, on 2. Ready? Ready.
You know, here with, week 11 in the CFL, of course, the Toronto Argonauts, they had the bye this past week. And, it's probably for good measure because they were starting to heat up and cool. They were kind of up and down a little bit is what we've seen towards their first half of the season. And, our first game of the week that we got this past Thursday was the Ottawa Redblacks traveling to Calgary, which I thought it was funny that all 4 road teams won this week, to be honest, when you look at that as one. And we'll get into that more throughout this hour. But the Redblacks win 31-29 over the Stampeders. You got your third string quarterback in there, Jeremiah Masoli, 254 passing yards and a touchdown, 2 carries for 17 yards. You got Raquel Armstead stepping it up this week with 11 carries for 120 yards on the ground and a touchdown, as well as 2 receptions for 22 yards. Jalen Ackland continues to contribute for the Redblacks with 6 receptions for 94 yards. Devontae Dedman, 1 reception for 9 yards. I know that's not a big stat, but his touchdown that he received, the one and only one from Jeremiah Masoli passing on the day, was big. The Redblacks defense, though, was very quiet. They only had 1 sack on the day, but it was made up by Lewis Ward being 3 for 3 on field goals with a long of 51 yards. Jake Meyer, 269 passing yards. They struggled. That's probably the nicest way to put it, on this day. As I talked about for my Snowflake of the Week, the Stampeders running back, 62 rushing yards on 21 attempts between 4 running backs is absolutely horrible. Reggie Bagleton, though, has been one of the staples for the Stampeders this year for their receivers. 92 yards receiving on 4 receptions, along with Ishmael Hyman's 5 receptions for 75 yards. The defense themselves not doing horrible, but still a little quiet with 2 sacks. I mean, when we put all that in perspective, the stats don't lie, but going a little bit deeper into it, Ryan, what are your thoughts when looking back on this first game of Week 11?
It's tough to come back from anything after 700 plus days removed from your last game. It's tough to do anything. From anything. It can be tough from learning a language, picking up a musical instrument, learning how to painting. Anything is tough after you've missed 700 plus days of doing it. And also 999 days between wins. Jeremiah Masoli was just an inspiration all game long. All game long. He looked a little shaky at times, but once he settled in, completed some clutch passes, especially down the stretch, with less than a minute to go in the game to lead the Redblacks down the field for the game-winning field goal that was put in by Mr. Ward. So yeah, I gotta say that if it was one guy for my dog of the week, a preview for my dog of the week, Jeremiah Masoli is it, and he was obviously very emotional after the game and post game. He's saying, "Oh man, it's just been such a ride between tearing his ACL the next season, rupturing his Achilles tendon, and then he's off he's in the shelf for so long. You don't know when he was going to come back." And I said to myself, "All right, Jeremiah, this might be for his sake, for just his health, this might be time to let go." But the guy had a goal, want to get back on the field. He did it with Drew Brown out with an ankle injury, and with the other quarterback, Crum. He's a second stringer for a reason. He's there as an auxiliary for a reason. So they figured, all right, let's throw in Jeremiah. Let's see what happens. Gets the win.
Yeah, Dustin Crum has been very up and down. He had that one rush in this game for like a yard, after, putting in the work that he did over the past couple of weeks. I see your point with that, but it definitely was big for Masoli when you bring in all the background of that, nearly 1,000 days since his last win. Cole, looking back on that, based on what Ryan was saying and everything throughout this game, what are your thoughts looking back on this Thursday game?
You look at what the Redblacks did, and Ryan could not have put it any better. And put it in really good context. A third stringer being in there on a road, and to add more clarity to the statement, hasn't really played in 2 years. I think it shows how a team can actually be sparked by that. And you got great effort from the offense. They were uplifted. The defense needed to, the special teams were uplifted too. The defense needed the boost because unlike the Redblacks defensively, they just unlike the Redblacks normally, their defense was a little flat, but the offense came to play, and I think that helped them out. And the running game was there. The passing game was there. They did not. They were careful in turning the ball over, so that was a good thing. So it was great to see that. I think this was the most inspired win of the Redblack season by far. Now for the Stampeders, I think they should be. I hate to say it like this, they should be ashamed of themselves for taking this L, because I think this was an opportunity to actually show that they could actually lick their wounds and come back from an L and actually play better, and show that when they got the win against the Argonauts, that's the team that they were, instead of the L they took to them when they traveled to Toronto. They had the game at home and they did not come up. They did not come up huge. They came up small. And to me, there's no excuse for the Stampeders to come up as small as they did. But the Redblacks were extremely inspired, and you could tell.
Yeah, you both hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, the biggest thing that I'll take away from it is, like you just said, they should be pretty much kicking themselves in the rear end, because the way that they came back from the previous week, Stampeders should have won this game had they established a run better. You're playing against a quarterback who's a third string, who hadn't won in almost 1,000 days, like Ryan had brought up. Even though it's a great feel-good story for him, it's the Stampeders should look on this and be like, we should definitely be 5-5 at this point. Had you done a better job establishing the run, things would have worked out a lot better for this team. I mean, I can't stress it enough how bad it is when you have 4 running backs that barely muster up those numbers on 21 attempts. And you and I have talked about it for, a year now, as of next week, how much the running game means to the flow of the entire team. And even during the Snowflake of the Week pick, when I picked this team and their running backs as my Snowflake of the Week, based on the production you got out of them and the results in the game. So we'll see how things pan out for this team going forward. But right now, until they get that taken care of, we're going to see a lot more of those L's throughout the rest of this season.
And say one more thing to say about the Redblacks. They didn't turn the ball over. Calgary turned the ball over on the first play of the game, which led to, I guess you would say, the game with the difference in that Lewis Ward they got 3 points out of it. 3 points off of 1 turnover on the first play of the game.
And that was the difference of the score.
And the Redblacks and Jeremy Masoli, all he had to do was protect the ball, protect the football. He did just that.
And they did. So they did a great job with that. So we'll see how things pan out for the Stampeders. But based on everything we all said, I don't have any high hopes for this team, going throughout the rest of this year. Let's move on to Saturday. A team that Brian and I were throwing a bunch of shade at during that week 2 appearance. They've gotten 3 straight wins. As this team right there, I gave them props during my dog of the week pick. As the Edmonton Elkamos traveled to Hamilton to take on the Tiger Kitties. They win 47-22 this past Saturday. McLeod Bethel Thompson leads the way with 234 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Justin Rankin, MVP of the day, 17 carries, 108 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, along with 1 reception for 4 yards. Still helps move the chains a little bit. Geno Lewis, 5 receptions for 93 yards, along with the man that should be selling insurance, Curly Gittens Jr., 4 receptions, 35 yards on the day with a touchdown. The Elkamos defense, 2 interceptions. Derek Moncrief and Cordell Jackson round those 2 interceptions out. When you look at the Edmonton Elks, that type of play from all of 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams, were absolutely clicking on all cylinders. Bo Levi Mitchell, the struggles and the tales of woe for him over here in Hamilton. 294 passing yards with a touchdown and 2 interceptions. Greg Bell, their MVP of the day for the Tiger Cats, as he had 12 carries for 85 yards and a touchdown, with 6 receptions for 88 yards and a touchdown as well from Greg Bell receiving. Shamar Bridges, 7 receptions, 100 yards and a touchdown, along with Keandre Smith, 9 receptions for 86 yards. The production from these 3 players on offense, it's absolutely a travesty to see the way this game panned out when you have numbers from them and what they've done consistently, especially Shamar Bridges throughout this season, and they just can't continued they don't have any success based on that. Their defense has been letting them down all year long, especially when they're giving up 47 points, and they only had 2 sacks on the day. Cole, we'll start this one out with you when it comes to this CFL game here. We've thrown a lot of shade at the Tiger Kitties and the Elks, and their last matchup wasn't like this. So what are your thoughts when you think about this game and how it panned out right here?
The Tiger Cats. The fact that not only they took an L, but they took a thumping, a home thumping to the team that supposedly was the worst of the bunch in the CFL going into the second week in August. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. All I needed to see, and this is a wasted effort. They had decent game on the ground, but all I needed to see was the 2 INTs from Bo Levi Mitchell. I'm like, yeah, you got 300 yards almost in the air, but of course I know by the final score most of those were garbage yards. And you had a team and the Elks. This is how a team is supposed to do it. I mean, you had a 100-yard rusher with 3 touchdowns on the ground. You had McLeod Bethel Thompson, decent game in the air. To me, I'm not blown away if a quarterback throws for 300 yards and the running game isn't all that solid. The running game was solid. All I need the quarterback to do is to move the ball down the field enough and not turn the ball over. That's what Bethel Thompson did. Kudos to him. Another good game from him. And looks like they're starting to get that running game going. And although the defense was still 200 T's is not a bad thing. And now if they can just put a little more pressure on the quarterback, we might not be talking about a team that's a spoiler. We might actually be talking about a team that could actually threaten to be in the Grey Cup playoffs. Did we think we were going to even say even that as a thought coming into August?
Well, Ryan, what are your thoughts on that? Talking about a team that's now potentially contending for a Grey Cup here.
Man, we had quite the conversation week 2 with the in regards to the Edmonton Eskimos. But this team's turning around. They let go of Chris Jones after they went 0-5 to start the season, 0-6 to start the season. Let go of Chris Jones. They bring in Jarius Jackson, and after the first week, which was rough for the Eskimos, they've run off 3 in a row because, like Cole's mentioned, on the strength of their running game primarily. Mm-hmm. You had Kevin Brown, who was their primary back, but he'd suffered an injury. Bring in Javon Leake, who regularly is on kick returns. He's usually a kick returner. You put him on an offense, you put him in the backfield, and he has a game for the ages against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Sorry, Drew. But they just kept the momentum going. They upset BC the next week. They used the same running attack with Javon Leake. This week, Javon Leake suffers an injury. They put in Justin Rankin, who last year was in the IFL with the Bay City Panthers, who won the championship. And he has a special game. He has over 100 yards rushing and 3 scores. So it's a tale of 2 teams right here. One's on the rise, the Elks, and then this week they've got the Montreal Alouettes, the defending Grey Cup champions, who we'll talk about them adding more pieces in a couple segments. But they've established they've established their identity, and their identity is run the football, control the clock, don't turn the ball over, and just like the Ottawa Redblacks did in their game on Thursday. And for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, my goodness, utter dog water. It got so bad for them All right, this is how bad it got. After the game, they dismissed their defensive coordinator. Mark Washington is no longer the defensive coordinator for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And they actually brought in the aforementioned Chris Jones to be an advisor on defense. He's getting paid the rest of the year by the Elks. So Hamilton doesn't have to pay an amount, it doesn't have to pay him. So they bring him in basically for free to help their defense, which has been atrocious this year. If I look at the Hamilton Tiger Cats schedule and you look at how many points they've allowed this season, all right, not counting the preseason. Week 1, 32. Week 2, 33. Week 3, 36. Week 4, 24. Week 5, 44. Bye week in week 6. No points allowed there. Good for you guys. Week 7, 24, which was their first win of the year against the Toronto Argonauts. They play the same Elks that they played on Saturday, excuse me. They only allowed 28, so good for them. But then Montreal dog walks them 33 points week 9, 33 points in week 10. And by the way, that week 10 result, it did not the score doesn't reflect the stat line. Then this week they allow 47 points to the Edmonton Elks. You knew there had to be a change. Either Scott Milenovich was out or Mark Washington was out. Mark Washington got the old heave ho. So Hamilton, if they're going to try to heave ho, they're going to. And it doesn't get any easier for the Tiger Cats. They play Winnipeg. They're at Winnipeg this week. Then they play at home against Toronto in the Labor Day Classic. Have a bye week. Then they play Ottawa. Doesn't get any easier for Hamilton from here. So either they got to figure it out quickly on defense,
or be scrimmagers for the rest of the CFL.
Or you're just going to be playing for pride at this point, and this is basically what they are. They're playing for pride.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no way the Tiger Kitties come back and compete for a Grey Cup for the remainder of this year. And based on what we got a lot of comments here in the chat that I kind of want to acknowledge real quick before we go to our second half of this past week's coverage. There's a lot of wild questions. CISC has been dropping dimes out here in the chat. Lester Hayes should have been in the Hall of Fame before Patrick Willis. And I wanted to save this for Ryan when he got here, even though this is not CFL related. This came up a little bit earlier. What do you think? Do you think that he should have been in the Hall of Fame before Patrick Willis?
Yeah, considering his contributions to the Oakland and Los Angeles Raiders, yeah, he definitely should have been a Hall of Famer.
And Cole, I said I was going to save it. Are you sharing those same sentiments?
Yeah, I share those sentiments. I mean, he definitely was a big time presence in Oakland, and he had to retool his career when they moved to Los Angeles, and he had to become a different type of cornerback, and he actually was really, really, really good. What should actually get the the yellow jacket would be the stickum that he wore in 1980.
Who's giving them the business?
I felt like that was fitting for that right there. I've been paid to pee on people before, says CISC. That was something that we missed with that. So that was a little bit far-fetched. That will not make the radio airwaves. But I felt like it was funny enough to bring it up. Or if it was Stone Cold Steve Austin or Arn Anderson on Raw at Cole Sports, adding to his, I think as much as CTE is serious matter, there are those who will use it as a cop-out for certain incidents. So he was adding that to that. Maybe he was trying to whiten his or her shirt. Whiten his or her shirt. Oh, wow. Cornell Heights education. Yes, it matters a lot if it was a man or a woman. Cole, that where we were talking about that earlier, you and I both said that we disagree with that.
And
as far as it, I do too. So CISC, let us know out here in the comments why you feel that way. The Olympics with their gender-bending sideshow extravaganza was the winner.
Well, considering that Algeria would behead somebody if they claim to not be the gender they are. But this isn't that type of conversation nor show.
Exactly. Well, he 100% will achieve it in the regular season.
Talking about the kicker from the Cowboys.
Well, this is also coming from Big Jim, who is a Cowboys fan. So we'll have to give it to him on that. I will even predict that he will break the record in the regular season this year. Cole!
What? So he basically he's a different version of Justin Tucker.
Ooh.
Okay.
And Justin Tucker does not show up on this list right here.
Not at all.
Nowhere even
Never.
close to that. And
Never.
Brandon Aubrey has had his fair share of days on that list, even though you over there, Big Jim, you're saying this.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
We'll see. We'll see how this works out for them during the regular season. The Cowboys had history's most accurate kicker and traded him away, Dan Bailey. Do you think that he was the history's most accurate kicker, fellas? I'll say this for both of you.
I'll let you go, Ryan.
Wait, histories? Which history? The NFL history or Cowboys history?
That's a good question.
I just wanted to retort that because I'm coming in blind in this conversation.
It's got to be Cowboys history.
Okay,
but I still say
hell to the no, no. Hell no, to the no.
Well, I'm taking it as NFL's history, and I just mentioned his name. So go ahead.
Brother guest is getting all jiggy in his chat.
Let retired players play in the Olympics. Heck, they have never played professional flag football.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's what Cole and I were saying. That was the last thing we were talking about before you came in to the show there, Ryan, about flag football players they should go ahead and just poach NFL retired players instead of actual NFL current players, because with Cole bringing up a great point with the Olympics kind of interfering with training camp towards around that time, if you were to bring in actual active players, or it would be just beforehand the actual training camp and going into preseason. So if you bring in NFL retired players, you don't have to worry about any of that. So could we see Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II play flag football in 2028?
He'll be 51 the next month.
Well, I mean, he's in great shape now at 47. I know, Cole, but
so am I, but round is a shape. So
the man is still eating cucumber ice cream. Let him have his moment. If he wants to try it, he's not
avocado.
I'm about the cucumber ice cream. Oh my gosh.
Ice cream. That would be that's the wait. Okay, here's a question, kind of off topic. Worse ice cream flavor, cucumber or celery?
I've tried neither.
No, I haven't either, but what would be a worse one? That's the question I'm asking.
I would say celery.
Let me see. Let me ask a bunch of animals who can answer that question. Dumpster Pelicans, which is worse, cucumber ice cream or celery? Quick! Give me an answer. Oh, both. Gotcha. All right, there you go.
We don't care. Just give us the ice cream.
Your guest looks like a hella young for being Candace Bergen's dad's best friend.
Throwing shade at my last name. I get it. I got it.
At least he's not wearing a monocle.
I'm wearing bifocals.
Why am I?
Yeah, I mean, we're all three of us are half blind out here in these streams, so we're all wearing glasses. Maybe we can. It's Simon Whistler on the bottom. CISC, you dropping dimes, man. Charlie McCarthy, how manly is an owlet?
Alouette.
Well, considering the Montreal Alouettes are named after the fleet of air fighters that fought in World War II, pretty manly.
I would say I would agree with that. Jack Tatum ruined the Hall of Fame probabilities. Sexual assault, he says.
Hard to argue.
And Sick corrected me. He was referring to when Ric Flair had to witness Arn Anderson getting beat up and later peed on by Stone Cold Steve Austin on Raw in 2002. I don't remember that one.
I don't remember that one either.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wild. But Sick is our WWE insider, so I got to give it to him. If anybody were to know the three of us, I would trust Sick Dickie's sentiments on that. It's better to be okay. We're going to leave that off. Yeah. I remember him saying
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
He was statistically NFL's best kicker. I think you need to dig a little bit deeper. I don't remember there ever being a conversation about Dan Bailey being considered in the top, as the best kicker in the NFL. Yeah,
Maybe in that year. I won't deny that, but ever no.
I remember him being considered in the top 3 to 5 of the league, but not the best. I will have to go back and dig a little bit more, but this has been like over a decade. And as always, subscribe now and never miss out on new content, whether you're watching Okomi Media or Sertoba Media. What have you got there, Ryan?
I've got some real-time research. Top 5 field goal accuracy in league history since 1938. At number 1 with the bullet, the aforementioned Justin Tucker, 90.183%.
That is totally impressive.
Number 2, Harrison Butker, 89.140%.
He got rewarded this past offseason.
Got the bag for kickers. Number 3, Eddie Pinheiro, 89% flat.
I would have never guessed that.
Number 4 is going to surprise all of you. Young Hui Koo, 88.5%.
I love his name.
So
even though it looks like Young Ho Koo, it's not Young Ho Koo.
Yeah,
I still call him Young Ho Koo.
Everybody calls him Young Ho.
Well, considering how torturous it is to watch the Falcons offense, Koo gets enough opportunities to kick field goals.
And rounding out the top 5 is Daniel Carlson, 88.021%.
Daniel Carlson.
Fact checking your fact check. There's still nowhere in there, Dan Bailey.
Dan Bailey is not in this number 16, 85.862%.
So
no longer active. No longer active.
So basically, you're saying that the Big Jim is right now saying,
yes, he is saying that.
Well, we're saying this. Big Jim, when it comes to Ryan McCarthy, Cole Johnson, and myself.
Acknowledge me.
Because Ryan dropping dimes out here with that. Celery is worse than cucumbers. I have tried cucumber ice cream. Well, I'm glad you have. I haven't and never will. Good for you. Dan Bailey was the all-time before he was traded. Maybe from the Cowboys, but I still don't believe he was all-time statistically in the NFL.
No.
Beforehand.
Maybe for the Cowboys, for sure. Yeah.
Yes, I'll give you that. But yeah, still, that's absolutely blasphemous to think about that. Now, when we go to our next game, we've got the Sunday game this past Sunday. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers travel to BC Lions and beat them 20-11. Zach Collaros, 288 passing yards with a touchdown and interception. Brady Oliveira, 10 carries, 78 yards, 4 receptions for 24 yards. Nick Dembski, 6 receptions for 109 yards and a touchdown. He has been consistent for the Blue Bombers this year in their receiving production. Kenny Lawler, though, 4 receptions, 54 yards. Not related to Jerry the King, but he is a Lawler nonetheless and puts up some decent numbers on the day. The Blue Bombers defense, 2 sacks with 2 interceptions, one by Dietrich Nichols and the other by Tyrell Ford, who has multiple interceptions this year as well. Sergio Castillo helps round out the production for the Blue Bombers. 2-2 on field goals with a long of 43 yards. Third string quarterback for the BC Lions is Nathan Rourke. 126 passing yards with 2 interceptions on the day, including 4 carries for 27 yards. The one bright spot for the Lions, and has been since the year started and continuously, and that's William Stanback. 15 carries, 100 yards, 2 receptions for 12 yards. The only bright spot really for this Lions team since Vernon Adams Jr. went down. And their defense, 2 sacks with an interception by TJ Lee. Looking at how this team has gone from one of the top 2 to 3 teams in the league, Vernon Adams Jr. lighting it up. We were talking about the fact that he was an MVP candidate even during week 2 when you and I were talking, Ryan McCarthy. And then for several weeks after that, Cole and I were saying the same thing until a few weeks back when he sustained injury and hasn't been the same and hasn't been back consistently since. Looking at Vernon Adams Jr. and the way this BC Lions team has kind of gone downhill, what are your thoughts when looking back on this team and how things have gone from then to now, since they're now at 5-5?
Oh man, what happened? What happened? It's amazing to see what missing one player can do to your entire offense, and I would say arguably the defense too, because their pass rush has not been as strong this year as it has been in past years. They're definitely missing Matthew Betts, who went on to sign a contract with the Detroit Lions, and he's having a pretty strong camp right now. I don't see him back. I don't see him back with in the CFL anytime soon. With the way his preseason has gone with the Lions, maybe a practice roster player, but might be in depth. Might have some depth in that nasty pass rush of the Detroit Lions. As for the BC Lions, I thought
you might be right. Death might be right.
Yeah.
As for the BC Lions, that star that they had at the start of the season, it looked like they were on a collision course with Montreal to be hosting the Grey Cup at home against perennial all East powerhouse, your Montreal Alouettes. But the last several games, and this goes for the entire West Division too. It's not just the BC Lions, it's also the Saskatchewan Roughriders have been having a tough time as of recent. But as we discussed all the way back in week 2, Mr. Willingham, you asked me the question of whether or not the Blue Bombers could right the ship. They're starting to.
Yes,
they're starting.
They are.
And the one thing that Winnipeg does well, Winnipeg does better than probably any team in the CFL, with all the guys they've had for such a long time, is that they utilize every single player on the field in terms of their offense. Receivers, with all those receivers, they're bringing back Rasheed Bailey. Rasheed Bailey was released by Toronto a few weeks ago. They're bringing him back. He's going to be back in the fold. He's familiar with that system. You're also utilizing Brady Oliveira, who's not only a good guy on the field, but a good guy off the field, saving puppies, rushing, grinding down the clock. And that's the one thing that Winnipeg does, is that their defense, they sink in. They sink into you. They will suffocate you. And when the time is right, when they're up by enough, their run game takes over and they just grind down the clock. They do it They do it whenever they have a lead. They remind me a lot of the 1990s. If you're familiar with hockey, New Jersey Devils of that era, 1995, 2000, 2003, where they get a lead, where they get an early lead, and they will not give it up. They will just grind you down. They will play defense, hard defense against you. They will play opportunistic offense against you. This game, BC was just utter trash all game long, pillar to post. It got so bad that in garbage time they put in their third stringer. Now there's going to be their third stringer when Vernon Adams comes back, and Chase Bryce went in the last drive of the game, went 6 for 6 and wound up helping get in the end zone for a touchdown, get in the end zone for garbage touchdown in garbage time. So that's how bad it was for the BC Lions. That's how good it was for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head talking about how these Blue Bombers team continues just to grind at you, and they've been playing great defense overall. You look at how low of scoring they've been holding other teams.
Yeah.
When they play the Lions, when they've played the Roughriders, you name the good teams at the top of the league, the Blue Bombers have been keeping the other team to low scoring numbers, and in some cases less than double digits. Now, the one concern that they have had, and the reason why that they were, they had the production they did to start the year, and you and I talked about it then, was the fact that their offense was inconsistent. That was only through 2 weeks.
Because
and they've been
suffered. I'm sorry, I mean, interrupt you. They
No, you're
had
good.
a lot of injuries. So
Yes.
many injuries, but they're starting to get their groove. They're getting their groove. This is a veteran team. There's a reason why they've been to 4 straight. They've been to 4 consecutive Grey Cups. This is the reason.
I mean, they could be making a claim now, now that they've gotten to 4 and 6. I mean, out of the 4 and 6 teams, I have a lot more hope for the Blue Bombers than I do for the Stampeders when we look at how many points they're giving up in their losses and even in their wins, and the fact that they cannot establish the run. And you look at Brady Oliveira, I butchered his name earlier, but I mean, he is consistently.
That's why I'm here. How to help.
Yes. There it is. He himself, if you have one running back that's putting up 50 to 60 yards themselves, I don't throw shade on it. But when you look at Stampeders, and they have a similar record, but not the same production, and they're putting up 60 yards barely with 4 running backs and over 20 carries per game. And then you have this guy and Brady Oliveira putting up only 10 carries and still getting 78 yards. That's the type of production that you want to see out of your running backs. And that is how you get a team like this in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who have won here and are starting to get their stride. Cole, what are your thoughts when looking at the Blue Bombers here?
Look, the way Ryan describes how the Blue Bombers are when they have the lead, that's my type of team. I love a team that when they have a lead, then like, I do not want to make that mistake, and we're going to pound you. We're going to punish you. We're going to make you feel it, and you're going to have to earn this W if you're going to come back and beat us. I love that type of play. And I think the Blue Bombers are finally getting their groove into this is the type of team they are. I think they're finding their identity, and I'm loving it. I'm loving that they're finding their identity. Now, I would love to see them run a little bit more, but beggars can't be choosers, right? I mean, let me tip a cap to the defense. Pressures, they got 2 sacks, they got 2 picks. And yes, you could say that this offensive alliance is not the same sans Vernon Adams. I get that. But still, this offense is still potent, although it looks like they're struggling mightily to find some type of chemistry or symmetry.
They just can't get in the end zone.
Yeah,
they can't. For some reason, they were shut. They were blanked in the week. They were blanked against Winnipeg the week before. They didn't score their first points against Winnipeg in these 2 games until midway through the 3rd quarter, or the 4th quarter. Excuse me.
So they got shut up by this team. They got shut up by this team 7 straight quarters. That should tell you how bad it is without Vernon Adams. But the Blue Bombers, I'm loving this. I want to see more of this. I want to see them play like this. When I say this, it's actually a compliment. I love a team that can actually force another to play ugly. I want a team to force another to play ugly. And what I mean by that is I want that team to force the physicality on the opposing team, and they're going to have to raise their physicality to beat them. And the team that forces that physicality knows their opposing team cannot. And the Blue Bombers knew for 2 straight games the Lions could not raise up their physicality level to theirs, and they've had 2. Fine, I'll say it. They've had 2 easy cruising victories as a result. And yes, with the Lions, it is proof, as you said, Ryan, one man could mess up a whole team. Yeah. And the absence of him is apparent.
were talking about this last week, and there were some reports that were coming out that there was a possibility Vernon Adams Jr. was going to come back for this game. And he didn't. And we even said it then. Vernon Adams Jr. doesn't play. They're falling to 5-5.
Yeah, that's an L.
They're falling. Like, there's no way. And it wasn't like it was a guarantee or anything. There was just little rumblings in the dark about there's possibility that he could come back. Okay, he didn't, and we saw what we saw. And I think a lot of that was based on the fact of they just got blanked 25-0. Okay, why put him out there potentially and make things worse if you don't even have a chance at all based on the way this defense is playing? Put him out there, get him back in the rhythm against a team that isn't as gritty on defense as the Blue Bombers, because Ryan brought up several great points about their defense when he first started talking about them. And if those rumors or rumblings or whatever you want to call them were anywhere close to accurate, that's what I think their mindset was and why he didn't play in this game. Or it's just going to be just a few more weeks before he's completely ready, because the way they started this season out hot, if they don't get that production out of him to be a leader for this team and come back, there is no way that they are able to rebound for a team that we were talking at the beginning of the year we could potentially see fighting for a Grey Cup. Now we just want to see them finish with some type of positive story to end the season, build some type of momentum, at least finish with the positive record for how you started the year. This has been tough to watch. I mean, we talk about the Roughriders, and it's been tough to watch that situation, but I've been more it's pulled my heartstrings more watching the Lions fall this past month, because looking at it, they've lost 3 consecutive games after starting the year 5-2. My apologies. They've lost 4 consecutive games after starting the year 5-1. So they have literally lost for a straight month since Vernon Adams Jr. started to get banged up. And it's going to be tough to see if they can turn this around. Hopefully they will, but we shall see in due time. With that being said, we now have to take it to our game of the week. The game of the week, it was tough. I didn't even want to put this team in the game of the week because they were just there last week and they received the big, fat, juicy what happened, I was hoping would happen, where Cole would add a pre-effect to the effect. That was actually spinning in the gerbil upstairs, the hamster wheel. So you played that off perfectly, my man. And with that being said, we have to talk about this team right here. Both teams, one of them Ryan knows very well based on the move that they made and a lot of stuff that we talked about during that week 2 episode with the Montreal Alouettes traveling to Saskatchewan to take on the Roughriders. And I don't know how much longer I can keep doing that because they keep letting me down, because it's been a rough ride to watch their downfall, okay? Because the Alouettes come into town, the 4th out of 4 road teams to get the victory this week, as we talked about earlier when Ryan first joined. Alouettes 27, the Roughriders 24 in this Friday night contest. Davis Alexander, the backup quarterback for the Alouettes, is still playing. 285 passing yards with a touchdown, as well as 4 carries for 33 yards and a rushing touchdown. Walter Fletcher struggles on the ground with 6 carries for 14 yards, but does contribute with 8 receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown for his team. Charleston Rambo has been great for this receiving core. 7 receptions, 94 yards. And Kyle Spiker, 3 receptions for 92 yards as well, along with Jose Maltos, 2 of 2 on field goals with a long of 40. Round out the production for this Alouettes team. Their defense wasn't really much to talk about, which is why I'm going to leave that one be, because Trevor Harris puts up 355 yards passing with 2 touchdowns in the air for the Roughriders, as well as AJ Alouette coming back from injury as well. 18 carries for 77 yards, 3 receptions for 34 yards. Dante Myers, 8 receptions for 100 yards. And Keyshawn Johnson, their relation to the legendary NFL player, 5 receptions for 90 yards and a touchdown as well. The Roughriders put up 4 sacks on the day. Ryan, when you think about the numbers that Saskatchewan put up and the production that they had in comparison to the Alouettes, what went wrong here? How did the Roughriders not walk away with the victory in this game of the week?
I think part of it is Montreal's defense played bend but don't break, for especially in the first half. The first half, it was Roughriders controlled the ball. Roughriders controlled the ball, and it showed in the stat line. Even though Montreal was up 10-7, Saskatchewan had their chances to try to get more points on the board. A missed field goal, which leads to a single, 2 field goals. Montreal stopping the Roughriders on a couple of drives in the red zone. Montreal getting some opportunities to take advantage of some mistakes on defense by the Roughriders. And I'll say this with the Roughriders defense, they harassed Davis Alexander all game long. They did. But I think the bigger mistake is for the Roughriders, they didn't utilize AJ Ouellette more. He had 77 yards on the ground, but I think it would have helped once they did have the lead at one point and if they'd used him a little bit more, if they used AJ Ouellette more, they signed to a big contract in the offseason. He was a big free agent name in the CFL free agency with the year he had in Toronto. I'm sorry, the last 2 years he's had in Toronto. Gets rewarded a big contract in Saskatchewan, and they're not using him as a running attack. I understand he's actually been limited in practice this week. It's a shorter week for them because they're playing Toronto this week. They're at Toronto, but Ouellette has been limited in practice. He suffered a hip injury during the game against Montreal. But to me, it was just missed opportunities for the Roughriders on offense that led to them losing. And look, Brett Lowther missing 4 field goals, which is uncharacteristic for him.
3 of 4 he was, I believe. Or am I wrong? 3 of 4 he was on the day. He missed 1. Or am I wrong?
3 of 7. No, he was 3 of 7.
3 of 7. Holy crap!
4 of them, including the one that would have tied the game in.
It was. I must have clicked on the last week because I remember I was going through and looking at different things because I almost put that stat line in there, and I'm mad that I didn't now because yes, 4 field goals. When there's been a lot of points throughout this year where he has been money. When you think about when they were winning games, it was because he was on the money with it. 4 field goals missed. You bring up a great point. That in itself is where this game went wrong.
And not only in 2 of those field goals that were missed, one was a single in the first quarter. That was the only point in the first quarter. The other was a missed field goal that led to a 125-yard return by James Letcher Jr. And if you haven't watched that highlight of the camera angle alone was just beautiful. They had the camera angle on the cables, cables, and you just see the kick fly. Letcher grabs it in the back of the end zone, and they just followed Letcher all the way down to the end zone, the other end zone in Pilsner country, and that put Montreal up. And it was just a beautiful camera shot. But yeah, I think it's just a game of missed opportunities for Saskatchewan because they had Montreal. They had him pinned down, and unfortunately, missing 4 field goals, one of them leading to a touchdown. That cost them the game.
Yeah, I like your sentiments with that. Now I'm going to add to that here in a second, but Cole, I want to give you the floor first when it comes to your thoughts. I mean, Ryan painted a great picture talking about how, the Roughriders had this game and they let it slip through their hands, especially when you have a field goal kicker missing 4 of them. All right, 4 out of 7. So, what are your thoughts overall when looking at this game of the week?
Yeah, this is one of those they let a game slip, and you got great effort from your starting quarterback. Threw over 350 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over. So you had your leader do his job. Now, they could have probably run it a little better and run a little more, and this team normally does run it better. Yeah, I could say, Willette, getting 77 yards on 18 carries, that's really good. I would like to see that upped or have others come and run other than the QB. You had a 100-yard receiver. You had another receiver that came close to getting 100 yards. Your defense gave you 4 sacks. I mean, this was an opportunity for a win at home, and this would have been a win at home that would have basically said, we're here. We played the best team. We punched them in the mouth, and we got a W. They actually did punch this team in the mouth. They gave them the business, and they still walked away with an L. And they did so losing at home to the Alouettes, who was playing their backup QB. So if there isn't anything more deflating for any team, let alone the Roughriders, that would be it, where you had everything in your hands, and basically you can easily say as an easy narrative, well, the field goal kicker lost it for us because he missed 4 field goals. If he just made 2 of them, they would have won the game. Very easy to say that. But why would you have him line up for 7 attempts in the first place?
And to add to Cole's point in regards to the Alouettes, Davis Alexander is a dog. DAWG. He comes in. He came in a couple weeks ago against Saskatchewan. Against Saskatchewan, when their quarterback was struggling, when their backup quarterback at the time was struggling, Cave Evans. He's out for the rest of the year with a knee injury. He came in for Cody Fajardo in the loss against Toronto, their only loss of the year. Fajardo's been activated from the 6-game list, but he's been inactive the last couple of weeks. So Montreal has a good problem on their hands in that they have a quarterback controversy now. It's not just Cody Fajardo's team. This is also Davis Alexander's team, and he's doing great things. You saw that touchdown run that gave the Alouettes the lead late, and if it wasn't for Jose Maltos stoinking, I haven't seen. There's been so many stoinks off the goalposts in the CFL this year. We saw one last night in BC. We saw an extra point got stoinked in Montreal game that basically kept the game within reach for the Roughriders. Unfortunately, Brett Lowther missing that field goal that would have tied the game was the biggest difference maker. But Davis Alexander is, I wouldn't say he's been working under the tutelage of the one, the only, the legend, Anthony Calvillo, who's our offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. The guy can ball, and Montreal has a good problem on their hands. And that when Fajardo does come back, like, how long is he going to be back for?
That's a good question because, he's been inconsistent with injuries. And when he was there, when he was playing, they were looking pretty good. They were clicking on all cylinders, and they have been missing him. And Alouette went down for a little bit, like you're talking about with the hip. Both of those factors, having a backup quarterback and a backup running back for a while, has definitely affected their win-loss record and has affected their momentum.
It is a fun. Go ahead.
I would say it's going to be interesting to see, like you said, when I call him Fajardo, I just like having the silent J in there. I don't know. It just feels right.
You can call him Fajardo too.
But I think when he comes back, this team has already been playing close. Yeah. Without him playing in there. And I'm talking about the Alouettes, not talking about the Saskatchewan Roughriders, because you got Trevor Harris back. But this team was winning by more than 3 points consistently when they had everybody clicking on all cylinders because you're not going to get by for a while with Walter Fletcher with 6 carries for 14 yards. These games where you generally have your starting running back with that type of production, you usually get served the L. And it goes to show how talented they are in multifaceted areas of this offense, mainly with their receiving core. They've got a really good receiving core, probably one of the best in the CFL that we've seen consistently throughout the league. But they've got to get their number 1 quarterback back in there. And even though Davis Alexander is a dog, I just like the way this offense flows when you have Cody in there.
Well, here's a fun fact for you. In the last 2 seasons since Fajardo has been the quarterback of the Alouettes, in the games he's been injured, Montreal is 5-0. And the receiving core is going to get better because today they announced Austin Mack, after he was released by the Atlanta Falcons. They own his rights after he elected to go to the NFL. They're bringing him back. So Tyson Philpott is out he's on the 6-game injured list. It's okay. Austin Mack's coming back. And when Tyson Philpott comes back, this team's going to be really good. And I don't see an L in their schedule for a while either, because they've got Edmonton this week on Friday, or Sunday, excuse me. They got Edmonton on Sunday. Then they've got they have a bye week. And they're at home against BC, at Calgary, at Ottawa. That's going to be a game to circle in their calendar, September 21st against Ottawa, because Ottawa kept in pace. They're in pace. And I said to myself, if Ottawa can be consistent at quarterback this year, they're going to stay healthy, which they have. And even with Drew Brown having an injury and Jeremiah Masoli coming in, they can stay in pace with Montreal and challenge. And they might even earn themselves a home playoff spot. But Montreal is unlike Toronto last year, who just blew by everybody in their start. Montreal's not only winning blowout games, they're also winning close games like this one we saw on Friday night.
Yeah, sometimes you learn the best.
Close ones as of late. Yeah.
Sometimes you learn the best of your true grit within your staff when they can pull out wins like this, 27-24 victories, even though we're pointing more at the other side of the Roughriders in their inability to close it out because they have a field goal kicker that missed, 4 field goals, which is probably the biggest takeaway from that on their side. But it shouldn't take anything away from the Alouettes and what they've done. They are 9-1 for a reason, and it's because they find a way to win these tight games, even when you have backup quarterbacks and backup running backs, backup players at other positions throughout all 3 phases of the game. You got to be proud if you are a fan of the Alouettes to see what they are doing so far in this league that we know as the CFL. Now, when it comes to that, we have some comments to bring up, but before we do that, we got to look at this. Our little division in between that and this. Now, Ike is in the house, says, "What's up, fellas? The coffee legend is back."
I like Ike. That. The coffee legend.
Thanks, Ike.
That's a good one, Ike. I like that.
The coffee legend. And apparently, according to CISC, Dan Bailey was the NFL's all-time statistical leader at that time. I just don't recall that.
But is he anymore?
No, he isn't. There it is. He's not. One of the best CFL prognosticators is Jimmy Walker from Good Times. I'm not too sure.
Dynamite.
Was he really a CFL player?
Jimmy Walker?
Yeah,
not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware. Yeah, this is. You got to give a little bit more of a backstory on that there, CISC.
Give us some context, please.
Yeah, next year, the best wide receiver in the last 10 to 14 years will be Ricky White III. Dallas is hoping to draft him next year.
And willing to let CeeDee Lamb walk. Interesting.
Yeah, and then finishing the top in the bottom 10, top 10 in the draft.
I mean, if you're looking to bring in Shadur Sanders and that kind of note, we'll have to see how they really truly get by with that. But
Lord,
can you give your choice for the top 5 former CFL players who played in the NFL? Ryan, we'll let you answer this one. We'll let you answer this one to the fullest. We'll take a seat back and let you answer this one.
All right. So I'm going with Doug Flutie, Joe Theismann, Jeff Garcia.
CFL.
Yeah, Toronto Argonauts.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Garcia was pretty good back in the day with Calgary, and then moving on to San Francisco. Had that touchdown pass in the playoff game. I'm trying to think who else would drop 5. Alex Singleton, currently of the Denver Broncos. He's one of the, I think he was their leading tackler last year. He played with Calgary, the Calgary Stampeders. Warren Moon. That's my top 5.
Solid top 5, I'd say.
Yeah, very much
Do you fellas collect sports cards, and who do you 3 collect? I haven't in about 20 years, but I still have some dimes I can grab from the box in the attic. What do you think there, fellas? Do you guys collect sports cards according to CISE?
Man, I haven't collected it even longer than 20. But I definitely don't yuck anybody's yum. It's a profitable business. So yeah, if you got to get it, and I tip my cap to all of those who do have a card collection.
Yeah, I'm not active, but I do have a couple binders of pretty solid cards.
I'm in the same note. Just gotta same boat. I just gotta grab the box down from the attic whenever I get a chance. We'll look at some things. I got Cal Ripken Jr.'s rookie card and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm more so on the baseball side of collecting cards from back then, but I think I've got some football ones up there too. He also says great top 5 for your choice.
Thank you.
And your guest bears a shocking resemblance to Mad Dog Vachon.
But without the Quebecois accent.
A well-known Canadian. Good. Well played. Well played.
Yeah. And no, he bet on CFL games. Apparently Jimmy Walker did.
Okay.
Well, that's interesting to know.
I could probably see him doing that.
Yeah.
Dynamite.
Dynamite. I wonder if that's what he said when he hit.
Oh, God.
Fellas, let's take this to a 2-minute drill and review this upcoming week in CFL. 4 games this upcoming week for the 2-minute drill for week 12. The team that we said needed a break, and that being the Calgary Stampeders, are the ones on bye this week. 4-6 after that atrocious play. We got to look at Thursday. And this is the first game, Thursday, the 22nd, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Saskatchewan Roughriders. But if they lose this game, I'm not going to say it that way next week. Are 5-4-1 as they travel to Toronto to take on the Argonauts, who are 5-4, coming off of a bye from week 11. In this game, start with you, Cole. Who do you think gets the victory in this? Is it the Roughriders or the Argonauts?
Ooh, I think I want to say the Roughriders are going to be coming in this game very, very pissed. They should have. Ryan and you, Drew, said it best. This game was this last game was theirs. And normally when you have that deflating defeat, you want to go out and prove that you should have gotten that. You should have gotten that W. Unfortunately, I think this will not happen. I think Toronto's going to end up getting the W.
Okay, this is a great take on that. Toronto would move to 6-4. In that case, the Roughriders would fall to 5-5-1. What do you think, Ryan? Are you going to agree with him? Do you think Toronto wins this game?
I'm going to disagree on this one. And great Toronto comes not because of Drew, but and that Green is one of my favorite colors. That's why I'm a New York Jets fan. I'll get to that story another time. But it's actually probably played in the commercial for No Credentials Required. But but I think, I agree with Cole's assessment that Saskatchewan is going to be they're kicking themselves because of all of Friday's missed opportunities. Toronto has a lot of inconsistencies at the quarterback position with Arbuckle and Duke's kind of split in time Nick Arbuckle and Cameron Dukes split in time during the season. Ryan Dinwiddie can't seem to stick with one quarterback at a consistent basis. Pretty good running game. Although Montreal, like I said, forgot to mention Montreal. I mean, Saskatchewan's rush defense was top notch last weekend. Top notch on Friday. The leading running back, the leading rusher for Montreal was Davis Alexander, and 20 of those yards came on the touchdown that put him in the league. Toronto's coming off a bye week, but they have some decisions at quarterback to make. Saskatchewan, like I said, Saskatchewan is going to be champing at the bit to learn from mistakes, especially Corey Mace is a first-year head coach. He's still on the job. He's still learning on the job. And I just think Saskatchewan is going to learn. They're going to learn their lessons and take the win.
That's what I thought this past week.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say this in a way for a homer pick, but Ryan brings up some really great points because the Argonauts, their success really falls on the shoulders of Kadeem Carey here. They need him to establish the run. When they did it last week with Arbuckle, they won the game with the backup quarterback. The week prior to that, when you have your starting quarterback in there, when you have Dukes in there, and he has to run 12 carries for 95 yards and a touchdown, and Kadeem Carey only gets 8 carries for 31 yards, and they lost to the Stampeders by 4 points. That's my biggest takeaway. And you and I've talked about this a lot, Cole. When you have the quarterback outrunning your running backs, it's a recipe for disaster. So if Toronto can establish the run with Carey and get some consistent play out of their quarterback, which Ryan brought up a great point with the inconsistencies there too. You both did there. I think they can win. However, based on what Trevor Harris did coming back and Alouette this past week, and the numbers they put up, if it wasn't for their kicker screwing them over, missing 4 out of 7 field goals, they were going to win this game, even if they would have connected on just 2 of those that they missed. So if he can continue to put up 300 plus passing yards and Harris put up 355 plus, you got Alouette putting up a good amount of numbers on the ground as well. I have to look at that and say that even though they have been losing consistently for multiple weeks, okay, and they have fallen to 5-4-1, and they lost, I say consecutive weeks, because I still consider the tie as a loss. Okay, if you look at it that way, they've lost 3 out of 4 games and they tied the other. They're still on a losing streak, in my opinion, because it's neither a win nor a loss. It's still bad. So the Roughriders have to turn it around, and if they're going to turn it around and prove what I was saying throughout the first few weeks of their season this year to be correct, they need to start turning it around here and now against the Argonauts, who are playing against a team that is as they were a couple weeks ago, and that's the only way.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. I was thinking about Luther Vandross. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say thanks, Luther. The one thing that could change, though, Chad Kelly was reinstated by the CFL this week on a last chance provision. So I don't know if he gets to start on Thursday. We'll see. But I'm hoping that Ryan Dinwiddie has the wherewithal that Rick Campbell didn't, and doesn't stick Chad Kelly in the lineup right away.
We'll see. We'll see what kind of moves they make at that point. But I like what you had to say as far as Saskatchewan. Also, even though Cole went a different way, I'm not going to argue against it, because if they do what I said as far as establishing the run, the Argonauts can win this game too. Because you look at the games that the Roughriders have lost, they've given up a decent amount of points, and a team like the Argonauts can come in and take advantage of that if it's set up correctly. But we'll see how things pan out with that game right there this weekend.
Who's giving them the business?
Well, this week. It's on Thursday. My apologies. Now, moving to Friday, the next day, we have the Hamilton Tiger Kitties, who are 3-7, traveling to Winnipeg to take on the Blue Bombers at 8:30 on Friday. Blue Bombers turning things around based on what we saw and what we've said for the past few weeks now. Winnipeg now 4-6. Cole, does Winnipeg keep this streak going hot and improve to 5-6 and serve the L to the Tiger Kitties, who are definitely used to getting served that L this year?
Well, I believe we're going to be seeing the Tiger Cats receiving a lot of these come this weekend.
Ouch!
Sorry.
Or, I put it this way: the Blue Bombers they could not come hotter at a better time, and I think the formula that Ryan laid out for the game for the 2 wins that they put against the Lions, I think is going to bode well. I think we're going to see this again with the Tiger Cats or Tiger Kitties. I really believe that we will be seeing a further declawing of the Tiger Cats due to the Blue Bombers.
Okay, so Blue Bombers will fall to 5-6. I mean, will improve to 5-6. The Tiger Kitties will fall to 3-8, in Cole's opinion. Ryan, do you agree with the sentiments? Blue Bombers going to continue on that path that you were just talking about a few minutes ago and improve to 5-6?
Yep, give me the Blue Bombers.
He says that with absolute confidence.
I mean, I will say one thing, just kind of jokingly. If the Tiger Cats, I think the one thing the Tiger Cats need to do is try to convince Simone Lawrence to come out of retirement, because he was the heart and soul of that defense. They're playing with no heart right now. And Winnipeg's playing with a lot of momentum. To get back to week 2, when Drew and I talked about can the Winnipeg Blue Bombers turn it around? They're starting to turn it around. They got momentum on their side. I'm taking the Bombers.
Okay, guys.
You guys want to hear a fucking story?
Story is this: the Blue Bombers are gonna come in here and serve that. The Tiger Kitty.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Was that a total
surprise, motherfucker?
No.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no.
All 3 of us were dancing in the background until I knew it was about to cut off and I had to talk. All 3 of us are on the same page with this. We shall see what happens if we are all right or all wrong next week when we come back.
Sorry,
there's a kitty on the screen.
This Tiger Kitty plays harder than the Hamilton Tiger Kitties right now.
You ain't lying.
Ooh.
You go, buddy.
And you are not lying with that one.
Who's giving them the business?
That one felt fitting with that too. Now, with the next game that we have on Saturday, the BC Lions, who just fell to 5-5, travel to Ottawa to take on the Redblacks, who are 6-2-1. 7:00 p.m. Eastern time this Saturday. Who do you got, Cole, going in this game? The Lions turn it around, go to 6-5, or will the Redblacks continue their impressive streak of victories this year?
I really believe in the Lions. I think they're going to turn it around. I think in this game, they're going to go on the road. They're going to go to Ottawa, and they're going to really impress everybody. And they're going to turn this 4-game losing streak, and they're going to win. I have a lot of faith in them.
Well, that was a great take. Now, Ryan, what do you think as far as this? Are you going to agree with him, or are you going to go the other way?
I'm going to take Ottawa in this game. Ottawa's such a good. They're so improved from the last half decade.
It looks like they're getting stronger by the week too. That's the thing I'm noticing.
That's the one thing. Yeah, that's the one thing too. They're getting better by the week. I like to see a little bit more effort from their defense. They surrendered a big lead last week against Calgary, which kept Calgary in the game and almost prevented them from walking away from with a W from McMahon Stadium. It'll be interesting to see what Nathan Rourke does in this game. Played like absolute. Played like he was a dog's breakfast against Winnipeg. It's not going to get any easier against Ottawa. It's not going to get any easier against Ottawa. In Ottawa, they got to travel across. They got to travel 2 time zones or 3 time zones, excuse me, to play on Saturday. It's not going to get any easier for the BC Lions. I think it'll be a close game. I think BC will learn their lesson from Sunday's effort or lack thereof. But I think Ottawa, Bob Dice's team, on all 3 levels, it's significantly better than what the BC Lions are doing right now.
You hear that, Lions? You're playing like puppy chow.
Well,
more like kitten chow.
You guys bring up some great points, but it's time for a few buttons to be clicked.
Let me talk to you.
Whether you believe it or not, when it comes to this team that we are talking about right here, the BC Lions have referred to this list right here, the Dumpster Pelican list, and I'll bring it up again. They are now the 3rd longest.
I see Nathan Rourke. I see Nathan Rourke right back there.
Yes.
Back there.
Wow.
They are the 3rd longest beak to the left. That is where they are at right now. Slipping to 5-5. And you want me to come up here and give my take on this? I think the Redblacks win at home. They will win by double digits. When you speak of the fact of, the Lions have to travel through multiple time zones just to make it to this game on Saturday, and they've been on the losing streak that they've been on, I don't see this game going any other way. The Redblacks are going to win this by 10 to 14 points.
You get an argument of me on that.
Yeah, same here.
We'll see how things pan out. But with a little bit of flash and flare, there is our choices for the first 3 games. We got one more.
Who's giving them the business?
On Sunday, we talk about a team that's won 3 straight games after starting the year 0-7. They are traveling yet again this Sunday. The 3-7 Edmonton Elkamos traveling to Montreal to take on the 9-1 Alouettes this Sunday, 7:00 p.m. Eastern time. Is there any way, Ryan, that the Elks can keep this winning streak going and knock off the Alouettes to 9-2?
If and only if the running game continues to play the way they have. And if I think especially if it's true, if Trey Ford comes to that lineup, because Trey Ford is a dynamic player. Yeah, we sang the praises of one law firm of McLeod Bethel Thompson. The way he's been playing lately, but it's aided because of the running attack. If Trey Ford can play in this game, it'll just make their chances a lot higher. And I haven't got a chance to look at the injury report. I don't know if he played, if he was in practice today or not. But here's the one thing that Montreal does, especially on nights when they commemorate their past Grey Cup teams, they seem to win. This weekend, they're commemorating the 50th anniversary of the 1974 Grey Cup team. They're wearing their special uniforms. They're gonna have that Dre up in Montreal at Percival Molson Stadium. This game will be closer. I think it'll be a lot closer than what people suspect it might be, especially the way that Edmonton has a lot of close losses. They're three of their first 4 losses were walk-off losses, so they're a better team. Those 3 losses, they're in the other end of it. That's 3 wins. They're in first place in the West Division. This will be a closer game than I think people suspect, but I think Montreal takes this game and improves to 10-1.
Solid take. Cole, how do you feel?
The only thing that gives me pause about the Alouettes is, man, I want them to run better, because I just get the feeling that they're finding ways to win, but I just can't help shake the smoke and mirrors feel for this team because of that glaring hole. Everything else seems to be fine, even if they're even starting third string quarterbacks and second string running backs, and they seem to run and they seem to just keep on winning. It's just that running game and the running philosophy I'm not digging. However, the Elks, they should be on top of the world. I mean, they should feel wonderful about themselves. I mean, people counting them out. They now have put together a wonderful winning streak, and here they are. They get a chance to see how they measure up. Although they're going to Montreal, they still see how they can measure up against the best team in the league and the defending champs. And unfortunately, I'm just seeing about I'm seeing the whole organization, players, coaches, and executives saying, Ron, yeah, Alouettes. I think they're gonna go 10-1.
So I like both of your takes, but I think I'm going to disagree on this one. I think I'm going to go with the Elks. And for some reasons that you just brought up, and Ryan did too, when you look at how inconsistent their running game has been and how they've been basically, skimming by on the production of their passing game. And, their defense has been helping them out too in some ways, and even special teams.
Yeah.
But you can only skate by for so long until you run into a team that's going to be knocking on the door. And I wouldn't have thought about this a month ago when we were talking about the 0-6 and then the 0-7 Elkamos. If I would have been thinking about myself potentially saying this by mid-August, I would have said that I need to be admitted somewhere and need to have my mind checked out. Okay. But when we look at what the Elks have done over the past few weeks, they do not look like that team that was starting out the first 2 months nearly 0-7.
I 100% agree with you there.
They have started to turn things around. And Ryan even was telling me during the week 2, it was like, there's some elements to the game when you watch the entirety of the game that you can see that there are some flashes of potential that the Elks, if they can find it, the reason, I mean, they can find the answers this year, they'll be able to turn it around. It might surprise us by at least finishing with a 500 record by the end of the year. And I even thought by talking in week 2, them being 0-1, that was blasphemous. Looking back on it now, and him being on our show today, I'll give him the praise, even if I've got you after when he comes back. But, he was right with that. And even in this moment, when you're talking about going against the team in the Montreal Alouettes, who are 9-1 and deservingly so, and for the takes that you guys both said, you're absolutely entitled to feel that way, and you may be right when this week comes up, and I could be wrong. However, based on what we've seen from the Elks the past few weeks, I want to give them a chance here, and I at least want to be the one. After watching them put up 47 points this past week, yes, it was against Hamilton, and Hamilton's been a dumpster fire all year long. But when you really take a look at what the Elks did the previous 2 weeks before that, you look at the way that they beat the BC Lions 33-16, even though they are not the same team that they were because they don't have their top MVP candidate at the time before he got hurt, that being Vernon Adams Jr. You look at the week before that, even though that team's banged up, we're talking about the Roughriders being in one of the top few teams of the league until they started falling off within the past month. Within the past month, there's been a shift. The Lions and the Roughriders have been going downhill due to some nagging injuries or whatever the case may be for those two teams. And on the ascension is the Elks. So looking at this right here, I know the Alouettes have been consistent throughout. Their only loss that they suffered was over a month ago when they lost to the Argonauts, and that was a tough game for them. And they've been bouncing back ever since then, and also having a bye week mixed in there as well. But looking at this, I have to look at the fact that based on what you two said, you brought up some really great points, and it more than likely will go that way in this game for the Alouettes. But from the production I've seen from the Elks the past few weeks, when you beat the Lions and you beat the Saskatchewan Roughriders, whether they're banged up or not, the way they're winning these games, I have to give them a chance. And I'll be the one up here by myself and say, I'm going to pick the Elks to win this game, and the Alouettes will fall to 9-2. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I want to give them a chance based on what I've seen from the past few weeks.
I have subscribed to that theory a couple of times with the Alouettes. I've gone against them a couple of times, and I fell flat on my face. And I now feel as though, okay, I guess I may have to pick this team until they prove me wrong and they actually have one of those horrible games, and this one might be it. But they just find a way to win, and they find a way to win ugly on offense. And they just the Alouettes just boggles my mind. And the reason why I played the Ron Simmons element is because the Elks, they are teaming with a lot of momentum. They have their identity. I think they're actually going to go to Montreal. They're actually going to play a really good game. I'm not saying this is going to be a blowout. I'm saying the Alouettes are going to have to come with their best effort to beat them. And I think they can. And if this game was in Edmonton, I'd probably be leaning with you.
I gotta give them a chance, because when I look at the next 3 weeks after that, they play the Lions, which they should win that game. I'm talking about the Alouettes. They should beat the Lions the following week. They should beat the Stampeders the week after that. The Redblacks game will be the game that I would say is a toss-up, but I feel like based on what we've seen from both teams, the Alouettes can win that game. I don't see them having another challenge to where they could potentially lose until they play the Argonauts on September 28th, a team that gave them their one and only loss this year. So based on the way the Elks have played, I'm not dismissing anything you said or Ryan said. I just think that their really good chance to take a loss is going to be either now or a month from now when they play the Redblacks. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going with Colt with what Cole said. They gotta find a way to establish the run. They don't, unlike last season when they had William Stanback, who was their bell cow running back. This is a running back by committee, and Walter Fletcher's getting most of the carries. Not Sean Thomas. Sorry, I'm trying to remember his name. But I went back in the stats just to look and see what they've done rushing wise over the last 4 or 5 games, and 2 of those games were against Saskatchewan. They couldn't establish the run very well against Saskatchewan. They did a better job against Hamilton, not so much against Toronto. So it's gonna be a control the clock game, and Edmonton's done a really good job of controlling the clock, limiting their turnovers. They've done that very, very well in their last 3 wins. So this is going to be a push-pull game for sure. I mean, I was kind of torn as to who was going to win this game, but I just feel the home crowd for Montreal. They always come out to play. They always come out, support their Alouettes. It's a special night. It's a theme night. They're celebrating the 50th anniversary of a Grey Cup winning team. Alouettes are going to be inspired to play some good ball. And like I said, it's going to be a close game. I think Montreal comes out on the top just because their defense. I think their defense can come away with a victory, and they've got not only got some monsters up front who can rush the quarterback, but they can get in whoever's going to be the quarterback in this game, whether it be Macbeth or Trey Ford. They can get in his face and make him throw interceptions against that secondary, which is a bunch of ball hawks. That could be the contributing difference of this game.
Well said. A couple things I want to say before we go to our final word or our last take of the show. The last time these 2 teams played was June 14th. Alouettes only won 23-20, and this was around the time that the Elks were having problems, right? The past 3 weeks, you're talking about establishing the run. The past 3 weeks, when Justin Rankin has 60-plus yards in a game, they've won all 3 games. And he has improved. He went from 60 yards the first win, 77 yards the second win, and in the past game, he had 17 carries, 108 yards, and 3 touchdowns, even though it was against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. This kid gets 60-plus yards in this game, and they establish the run. The Elks, mark my words, will serve the big fat. Where you guys are rolling with it, it's like that one guy, I forget what the movie is, but you're saying there's a chance, and I'm saying there is a chance, fellas. And with that being said, we do have a few comments we got to acknowledge before we get to that last segment. As I am a grader for SGC, and I have graded 36,000 cards and items. Wow.
Okay.
Man,
well,
that's impressive.
CISC, look me up on the social media airwaves. Drew Willingham. I'd like to find out what my cards are worth. I will go grab them from the safe box upstairs. They are still in great condition. And
Double
look up Ryan
for me.
McCarthy as well.
Double for me.
Yes.
Yep.
Look up Ryan McCarthy. You will see him in the friends list as well. I can't imagine that Ryan McCarthy with a French Canadian accent, says Sick Diggy.
He lives close to
I
Canada.
haven't had a chance to work on it. Need more time.
I mean, he lives close to Canada. I mean, it could possibly be a possibility.
I'm only a 3.5 hour drive from Montreal. So,
damn,
there you go.
That is interesting. We're going to fly out to Ryan McCarthy's, spot sometime. Cole, we're going to have to carpool. We'll go check out an Alouettes game.
Come on up, fellas. I know some folks can get us tickets.
Hey, man, I can't say for sure this season because I got a lot going on, which I'll tell you about in the green room. I think I told Cole about last week, going to school. Tell about a little bit more after the show. But I remember when I was at the Stardust Casino Sportsbook, Jimmy Walker said that I looked like Bookman Buffalo, but I said you looked like a toothpick with lips. I feel the same way.
Not a character
comment.
I was singing it also, with Cole singing during my takeover.
Toothpick lips. Oh my goodness.
Where's Terrell Suggs playing this season?
He's playing the slots at the local casino. That's what he's doing. That's where he's playing. Or blackjack.
Wow.
I don't know if he's a gambler. I'm just saying this is it's probably where he's playing this year.
That was harsh. Okay. Suggs hasn't played now like 5 years. It was 2019 the last time he played. And he was a part of Kansas City's second Super Bowl appearance. Well, yeah, when they won this time in the new millennium, when Patrick Mahomes got his first championship. He was there. He didn't really do anything, but yes, that's where he's playing, at the casino and not on the field. And as always, subscribe now and never miss out on new content, whether you're watching on Comey Media or Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. Make sure you look up our guy, Ryan McCarthy, on Belly Up Media, as well as No Credentials Required, and give a like, share, and subscribe to his content, as they have No Credentials Required still on Tuesday nights.
We're actually tomorrow we won't be recording because it's my birthday. So we'll be back on Wednesday night after a hiatus, resting. We're working on getting a guest for our 200th podcast episode. So
nice.
Check us out.
Well, congratulations on that. And congratulations for seeing another year as well. It's always a great achievement for us. Happy early birthday there as well, my man. And
I will say, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off here.
No, you're good.
I will say, in lieu of gifts this year, I'm going to accept donations to the Chicago All Saints Hospital. Please send your checks in a self-addressed stamp envelope. Their acronym is CASH. So send them on in.
There it is. There it is. Make sure if you guys can, if you have the ability to, I know the economy is tough, but if you have a way to spare a little bit for our guy's birthday, do it in honor of his day of birth. That would be absolutely great. And even CISC says, congratulations on your birthday. And before that, he said, I have graded the Babe Ruth card that sold for $7,200,000. And I graded the Mickey Mantle that sold for $12,500,000 2 years ago.
Wow. Does he get any kickback, any commission from that for grading it?
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you do, because 7.2 million and 12.5 million is no slouch to bet.
Yeah, even 1% is still quite a lot, quite a chunk of change.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely awesome. And Simon Whistler is here, and now he says we're gonna start calling Ryan Simon. There it is. But with all that being said,
and I like to do drawings.
Total football talk.
As long as it's one. That's great. I love it.
It's that time of the show where we start talking about our closing thoughts and round it out, send it home for episode 51. We'll start this one out with our guest there, Mr. McCarthy.
All right, so my football thought for today, I'll make it very quick. The Arena Football League, and this came across the wire about 8 hours ago from arenafan.com. My buddy Tim Capper, who's also a big Montreal Alouettes fan. We were talking about the CFL. He said he on Arena Football Arena Fans Twitter account. I don't call it X. I call it Twitter. He wrote this morning just in an announcement is expected in September on the future of the Arena Football League and its members' teams. Billings owner Stephen Titus didn't respond to requests confirming commitment to playing as part of the AFL in 2025, to which Billings Outlaws responded, "We will be playing football in 2025, guaranteed." Now, that kind of got the gears going. They didn't say which league. So it kind of got me thinking about this and thought about it a little bit more. Then this afternoon was listening to our local Albany sports afternoon drive, Levac and Gaz, of which Jeff Levac, who is the team president of the Albany Firebirds, kind of took this ominous tweet and said, look, there are some things that are coming down the pike for the Arena Football League next year. Don't worry about it. He said everything's great. Stay tuned. So got some things coming down the pike for the Arena Football League, which I'm pretty excited about. I'm an Arena Football fan. I've been an Arena Football fan since 1990. So my first Albany Firebirds game in 1990 when they were in their first year in the league, and Albany has been an Arena Football town since. And we had a long layoff from 2009 to 2018 where we had no Arena Football whatsoever, with AF2 leaving, and then the Arena Football League coming back with the Albany Empire, who was around for 2 seasons before the AFL closed its doors again. But this is exciting. It's exciting. I said no credentials required a few weeks ago. I was asked, what's the future of the league? I said they need to do a couple things this year. They need to establish their rules, make sure that they're playing arena rules, not indoor rules, and they need to find some stability with management. And they've done that. They brought in Jerry Kurz, who was previously with the league. I don't know if Jeff Fisher is going to stay on as commissioner. I'm hoping he does. And I think they need to really hunker down with the 8 teams they have now and maybe add a couple and make sure that ownership is stable, not have the league own the teams, because that's what got the league in trouble the first time this year when they had 16 teams going in, and by week 4, only 8 remained. So if they need some stability, they can establish some stability during the offseason, which can catapult them into the 2025 season. I think Arena Football will be in very good shape going forward.
So do you think they take him out of the interim role for commissioner or what for Jeff Fisher when it comes to that? I want to piggyback on that for a second.
Yeah, one of two things. I think one of two things would happen. I think either they'll take the interim off, or they'll bring in somebody else to be the commissioner of the league, and he goes back to being football operations president at the Nashville Cats. But I hope they take the interim tag off him because he's been good for the league.
And that's definitely a great take with that. If anybody between you and Sam Shady are probably the two that I know the most that could sit here and talk about the Arena Football League for as long as we have Total Football Talk on the airwaves every Monday right now. So with that being said, great take with that, Ryan. Appreciate you being here and giving us your insight for the CFL. You absolutely crushed it. And with that being said, got to take it to somebody else who's used to crushing it out here in these streams. My man and yours, Kyle, with his thoughts with the post game here and now.
All right. So September 5th, that's when the NFL begins. And they want to corner the market on Fridays as well, since the very next night, they want to play in Brazil. And I find it funny that the league, which is uber prepared for so many different things, didn't think that when they played this game in Sao Paulo, that they would have to refrain from having teams wear green, and the teams that are going to go to play in Brazil for the first time, the Eagles and the Packers. For those who are not known to understand what the teams wear in the NFL, both teams' main color is green. But all for the name of money, right? But that's neither here nor there, and that's a few weeks from now. But the more things change with the NFL, the more they stay the same. I mean, we know that we are excited. You know, we're passionate about our teams. We love the potential that they have, and we see it on display in the preseason. We know that we're going to see training camp fights, and there have been the same amount that it's always been. We know that we're going to see some disappointing play. We're going to see some people who just leap off the page, and we might even see preseason darlings. And I made that assumption aware with my grand champ of Caleb Williams. He might do well in the regular season. He might not. Who knows? You know, but the more they remain the same part, the Pittsburgh Steelers still are going to try to get by with crappy quarterback play, with patchy running back play, and they're going to lean so hard on their defense that they're going to tire out by the time they get to the playoffs every single year. And 2024 looks like that's going to happen yet again. And why do I say that? Well, in their latest preseason game, we got a chance to see Russell Wilson start. In the previous preseason game, we got a chance to see Justin Fields start. And by the way they both looked in each game, you almost couldn't tell the difference between which quarterback was under center, because both of them were anemic. Both of them were atrocious. And both of them have NFL experience out the yang, yet they have the yips that can extend from here until next century. If I were a Yenzer and if I were a Steelers fan, I would dislike how this team is constructed, because you're going to have to hope that TJ Watt or Mika Fitzpatrick or Cam Hayward, one of those three star players on defense, is going to actually score you a couple touchdowns. Oh, that's what happened last year when TJ Watt outscored the Browns by himself by having 2 scoops and scores. The Steelers are playing a dangerous game. And yes, look, I'm a big fan of Mike Tomlin. But there's going to have to come a time when you're going to have this offense actually be something worth enjoying and something worth protecting. Because right now, You got two QBs where anybody in Acrisure Stadium, Heinz Field, whatever you want to call it, could actually go in the center and play better than Fields and Wilson. Come on, Steelers, you're better than this. You should know better. But y'all can think you can just get by with paltry quarterback play, some running, some throws. Hopefully that the quarterback isn't errant, and the defense can shut every team down. Not every team gets shut down. You know that.
Well, hopefully, this isn't what we're going to see during the regular season, but usually when we see flashes of things that aren't great during the preseason, they get exposed even worse during the regular season, because so far, when we compare and contrast last year's preseason to now, you got to look at Kenny Pickett, and his production was still better than what these two quarterbacks are doing in preseason. And that's sad to say. And you just mortgaged your whole future by trading him to Philly, trading for Justin Fields, and signing, even though Russell Wilson's deal wasn't bad for you, it's bad for the Broncos because you signed him on the veteran minimum and they still have to pay him the rest.
Mm-hmm.
That you can get off the hook easily for. The Justin Fields trade, that's give or take. We can really look into that more a year or so from now. But you give a great fire take on that, both you and Ryan, with great fire right there. And I hope that I can live up to it with mine as well. As I'm not going to go too far into it, but a quarterback announced his retirement today. One who didn't play last year at all. He was cut after the final preseason game last year for the Cardinals. As he was recovering from an injury that it took him a while to come back. And after playing in that final preseason game, he was cut. He worked out with the Minnesota Vikings a few times last year, but never brought him on. And even said earlier this year that he was still open to making one more return to the NFL. And that person is quarterback Colt McCoy. He retired today, after a pretty lengthy career in the NFL from 2010 through 2022. Again, did not play last year, but played for the Cleveland Browns, the San Francisco 49ers, the Washington, formerly known as the Redskins, the New York Giants, and the Arizona Cardinals for his last 2 years in the league. There was a lot of hype thinking he was going to play last year to start the season because Kyler Murray was still down, and wasn't going to make it back. And I think it was the Cardinals not putting him in there, thinking that if McCoy went in there, he would have had some success. They might not have been able to draft as high, and they had eyes on talents, especially at wide receiver, to help complement Kyler Murray, and that being Marvin Harrison Jr., that they ultimately got with the 4th overall pick this year. Just goes to show that where one person didn't get an opportunity to put one final good stamp on their career, then it kind of paid off for the team as they had a dismal year. Kyler Murray came back towards the end. You saw the flashes of how he is to end it, but it wasn't good enough as they still finished with a low enough record to get a top 4 pick and secure Marvin Harrison. Now, with all that being said, I want to say some things about Colt McCoy. He had one fantastic college career at Texas. It didn't quite pan out for him in the NFL. You think about the fact that he went to the Browns and they did what they did with him. He went from there to the 49ers, who were not picking him up to be the starting quarterback, but to be somewhat of a bridge to, your backup quarterbacks there, as they still had Kaepernick and company at that time, and were still pretty good in the league before they regressed a little bit before bringing in Shanahan, and the rest is history on where they're at now. But looking at Colt McCoy, I'd say he had a pretty decent journeyman career in the NFL. He got a lot of his playing time while he was with Washington, formerly known as the Redskins, playing for a team that was and still is trying to get out of this category right here of being a dumpster Pelican. I can sit up here and be 100% honest and tell you that they have been dumpster Pelicans since the year 1994. Okay, that was the last time I believe they went to the NFC Championship game. Now, Colt McCoy, though, bittersweet. ending for him. He had mentioned earlier this year that he was open to coming back as a player, potentially coaching, or get into politics, but instead Colt McCoy doesn't do any of those and is set to talk college football on Saturdays, primarily Big Ten football, and cover that each and every week as an analyst for the media. So we'll have to see how things go for Colt McCoy. If things work out for him in that space, I wish him luck with that. One last thing that I want to talk about is, if you didn't catch it last week when we talked about it, a In or Out Sports Debate moved to Sunday nights. That began last night. You can see episode 120 on Sartoba Media. Kyle Nash, who's now a 15-time Vault of Fame inductee, and Corey Mann, who is an 8-time Vault of Fame inductee. Both guys in 3rd and 4th place of the Vault of Fame for the In or Out Sports Debate were there to make 120 possible. There will not be an In or Out Sports Debate episode next Sunday, and I will discuss more of those things as time goes on to give you a little bit more of an insight for that. But tomorrow, you can see the Commander's Gridiron Report at 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time, special time. It will move back to its original time at some point in the near future, but for now, it is on Tuesdays at 1:05 as we get ready for the regular season. But the one thing that I'm excited about is we got episode 51 in today. We got Ryan McCarthy in here to talk with us through hour 2 and throughout the end of the show. And we've only got one more thing left to do, and that's for Kyle to send us home. The mute button is...
What's that you say?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I said, where the kind of people find you, Ryan, before I do go.
Oh, yes. So the people can find me individually on Twitter. Don't call it X. Twitter, Instagram, at whoisRyanMCC. You can find no credentials required. Also on those particular social media brands, at NoCredsREQ. Also on Facebook.com/@NoCredsREQ. On YouTube, it's at NoCredsREQ. And again, we'll be back in the recording chair on Wednesday, 8:05 Eastern. Still got to nail down our guest for that episode. So as soon as we get him nailed down, we'll post it on socials as to who it is. And you can tune in at Wednesday at 8:05. But we're usually on Tuesdays at 8:05, and starting in September, you can also find us on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. for the Saturday morning brunch. So tune in.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you again for joining us, sir, as he will be joining us every week until he likes to jet. So
we'll get more of an understanding with that once the show wraps up, because we still have some other things we got to figure out that we haven't discussed on air yet. But
no, what we're doing,
as much as we can get Ryan in here, I'm 100% on board with that, because he absolutely crushed it with CFL coverage today.
Now, what we don't have to figure out is, you can find Drew, and you can find him on many social media handles. Instagram, you can find him at Sartoba_media, Sartoba_media on X or Twitter, _Sartoba on TikTok, and you can also find him on Sartoba Media on the YouTube channel. And where you can find yours truly, all you have to do is go on to flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That is flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. Well, that does it for another episode of Total Football Talk. So glad that you're able to join us. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. TFT Tribe, we love you. And even the repeats, we love you as well. And thank you for hitting the notification bell so you can catch all content that comes from the Sartoba Media side of things on the YouTube channel or the Coleman Media Incorporated YouTube channel. Both have great programming for you. For Ryan McCarthy, Andrew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson, here to say parting as we always do. In life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows.
And as always, stay safe out here in these streets.
See ya.